Chapter 1119. I am doing this for your own good. Chapter 1119. I am doing this for your own good. Xian Yuaning nodded repeatedly. That's right. I heard that bright dragon soil can make one break through a lot faster. Bright dragon soil. If it really was bright dragon soil, Feng Wu would be very interested. Many people thought that bright dragon soil could help one's cultivation and make them break through faster. However, Feng Wu could actually refine the soil and make something better out of it. But the bright dragon soil wasn't her top priority now. Her focus was on clues about the broken star piece. Just then, Xian Yuaning proposed. Usually, Grandpa won't even let us touch it. But with so many guests outside, my grandpa won't have the time to keep an eye on it. How about we go check it out? Feng Lu said. Good idea. All of us would like to see this bright dragon soil. Zhuo Qingyu asked. Are you sure? Bright dragon soil is so precious. I don't think I should go. Du Guyamo said. In air, I think we'll skip. But Sister Wu, didn't you offend her before? I think showing her the bright dragon soil is a great idea. Just think of it as an apology. Xian Yuaning turned to Feng Wu with a guilty look in her eyes. Sister Wu, why don't you go with me? Don't worry. We'll just have a look. Even if Grandpa discovers us, he won't be mad at us. Feng Wu said. So it's in. Xian Yuaning replied. It's in my grandpa's yard. Don't worry. It'll be perfectly safe. You might be an excellent cultivator now, but you still have a long way to go if you want to catch up to Sister Zhua. Don't you want to progress more quickly? So, that was why they deliberately brought Zhuo Qingwan up in front of me earlier? Are they trying to goad me? Thought Feng Wu. Feng Wu shook her head. Actually, I don't. But no one believed her. Xian Yuaning held Feng Wu's arm. Sister Xiao Wu, just come with me. I'll show you the way. It'll just be the two of us. None of them are going. In fact, deep down, Feng Wu wanted to go. Under normal circumstances, it would be very difficult for Feng Wu to get close to old Master Xuanyuan's courtyard. However, with Xian Yuaning as her cover now, things had become much easier for her. Temptingly passive, Feng Wu let herself be dragged away by Xian Yuaning. As Xian Yuaning urged Feng Wu along, she made a victory hand sign at those behind her. In Xian Yuankuan's courtyard. Naturally, the courtyard was guarded, but Xian Yuaning didn't take the usual route. Instead, she took Feng Wu to some rocks and whispered to the latter. There's a secret passageway, which will lead you right inside. I won't let just anybody know about it. Sister Xiao Wu, I'm only letting you in on the secret because we're good friends. Of course, Feng Wu said yes, but only she knew what she was thinking. It was indeed a secret passageway. Xian Yuaning pressed a button, and the rocks opened up to quickly reveal a passage wide enough for one person to walk through. Sister Xiao Wu, it's dark inside. I'll lead the way. Please follow me, Xian Yuaning cautioned her. All right. Feng Wu nodded. As they walked through the dark tunnel, Feng Wu didn't let her eyes miss a single detail. In fact, as soon as they walked into the tunnel, Feng Wu knew perfectly well that there was a hidden formation inside, which turned the tunnel into a maze that was easy to enter but impossible to leave. However, no formation could ever confuse Feng Wu. Hence, Feng Wu memorized the formation as she followed Xian Yuaning into the tunnel. Roughly 5 minutes later, she saw a faint light ahead of them. Blowing out the candle in her hand, Xian Yuaning said to Feng Wu over her shoulder, Sister Xiao Wu, let's be straight. I offended you earlier, and I've now taken you here to see the bright dragon soil. We're even after this. You can't hold me accountable anymore. Chapter 1120. Actually, I am not. Chapter 1120. Actually, I am not. Feng Wu shook her head. Actually, I'm not that into the bright dragon soil. Xian Yuaning laughed inwardly at how fake Feng Wu was. If you really have no interest in the bright dragon soil, why did you pretend to reluctantly follow me here as soon as I mentioned it? Zhuo Qingwan has been making such quick progress that I don't believe you're not agitated by it, thought Xian Yuaning. Xian Yuaning snorted in her head, but still had a smile on her face. I know, Sister Xiao Wu. You never wanted to come, but I forced you to come with me, right? Feng Wu said, yes. As Feng Wu spoke, she glanced at a yellow parrot perched on the wall of the courtyard. She waved at the bird. The yellow parrot actually flew toward Feng Wu at her beckoning, and stopped on Feng Wu's outstretched arm. Taking out a pea-sized top-grade spiritual stone, Feng Wu fed it to the bird. Xian Yuaning frowned when she saw that. The yellow parrot belonged to her grandfather, and was usually very rebellious and naughty. She didn't even know that it could be so docile. Xian Yuaning said to Feng Wu, "Don't mess with the parrot. Let's get down to business." Feng Wu glanced at Xian Yuaning as she fed the yellow parrot, then asked casually, "What business can we possibly have here?" Xian Yuaning said in a fluster, "The bright dragon soil. Didn't I promise to show it to you? Why are you still in the mood to play with the bird?" Feng Wu said indifferently as she teased the bird, "I'm not that eager to see it anyway. This bird is a lot more fun." "You're so." Xian Yuaning pointed at Feng Wu, exasperated at Feng Wu's failure to play along. "Sister Xiao Wu, please don't be offended. But why don't you have any ambition at all?" Feng Wu looked at her with a perfectly innocent and baffled look on her face. "Huh?" Xian Yuaning said. "Didn't Zuoqingyu mention Zuoqingwan just then? Aren't you disturbed at all? Back then, the two of you were known as the two genius girls of the imperial capital. Now that she's almost a spiritual lord, you're still a spiritual master. Don't you find that humiliating?" Feng Wu said, Xian Yuaning stared at Feng Wu. "That's why I brought you here to see the bright dragon soil. Hear me out." Xian Yuaning lowered her voice. "My grandpa isn't here right now, so why don't we take this opportunity to steal some of that soil for you? It'll help you with your cultivation." Feng Wu cried out in surprise. "Steal the bright dragon soil? That's not what you told me earlier. You said we would just look at it." Xian Yuaning walked into the courtyard, dragging Feng Wu behind her and grumbling as she went. "A thief never leaves empty-handed. Haven't you heard that before? Since we're already here, you'd be a moron if you didn't take some bright dragon soil away with you while you're at it." Feng Wu said, "But it belongs to your grandfather. How can you steal from him?" Xian Yuaning snorted. "Who says I'm going to steal it?" They reached a secret room as they spoke. Xian Yuaning smiled, pleased with herself. "Here we are. My grandpa keeps his best stuff here. Step away a little while I open the door." Feng Wu said, "I'm still scared." "Forget it. You stay. I'm leaving." Xian Yuaning grabbed Feng Wu. "Where are you going? You're already here, and you're coming in with me." Feng Wu cried out in surprise. "Ah!" The next second, with a click, the door was tightly shut. But Feng Wu was left inside with Xian Yuaning outside. Feng Wu cried out, "What is this place? This isn't your grandfather's treasure room. Xian Yuaning, why did you lock me up here? Let me out." Chapter 1121, Had I Known. Chapter 1121 Had I Known. Xian Yuanying's malicious voice came from outside. "Feng Wu, did you really think I was going to take you to some treasure room? Ha ha ha." Feng Wu banged on the door. "Xian Yuaning, you set me up. You led me into this trap. I'll get back at you even if I turn into a ghost." Xian Yuaning snorted. "You're not going anywhere. Soon, you'll wish you were dead." Feng Wu yelled angrily. "Aren't you afraid that Northern Feng Mansion will take revenge for me?" Ha 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 ha. Northern Feng Mansion? Lady Northern Feng really is an arrogant character. But after your reputation is ruined, do you think she'll still want you as a daughter? I'd worry about yourself if I were you. Ha 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 ha. Xian Yuaning walked away as she spoke. Just then, Feng Wu heard a low snicker in the room. Turning around, Feng Wu saw a hideous, taunting face in the dim light. It was Zuoqinglu. His eyes were so red that they seemed to be bleeding. He looked frightening. His breathing was loud, but he seemed sober. "Feng Wu, ha ha ha, I didn't think it would be you." Zuoqinglu looked a little unsteady as he stumbled toward Feng Wu. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes in a threatening manner. "It's you. Ha ha ha, it's me. I bet it never crossed your mind." Zuoqinglu rushed toward Feng Wu and tried to throw his arms around her. But Feng Wu dodged. Zuoqinglu almost smashed his head into the wall. Luckily, he was still lucid and could still use his abilities. He ended up only knocking his head against the wall a little, But that was enough to give him a big bump on the forehead. You bitch! How dare you run away? Zhuo Qinglu reached out to grab Feng Wu. Feng Wu dodged again. Meanwhile, she kicked Zhuo Qinglu hard. Zhuo Qinglu was sent flying backward to smash into the wall. He grimaced at the pain. Feng Wu went up to the wall and began to study it. However, she was surrounded by walls. Even the ceiling and floor were made from broken dragon stone, and the door was nowhere to be found. Zhuo Qinglu guffawed next to her. Feng Wu, don't be so naive. You won't be able to open it. Zhuo Qinglu slumped onto the ground and looked at Feng Wu with a taunting look in his eyes. We're not getting out. Ha ha ha. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and looked over her shoulder at him. Don't you feel yourself getting warmer? Ha ha ha. Zhuo Qinglu grinned at Feng Wu. Can't you see that your spiritual essence is evaporating with the heat? Feng Wu stared at Zhuo Qinglu. Zhuo Qinglu guffawed. Have you heard of Spring Breeze Powder? Do you know Perching Phoenix Pavilion and Miss Fingqi? Spring Breeze Powder is the great creation of Miss Fingqi. Well, you look like a perfectly decent girl, so of course you know nothing about brothels. Ha ha ha, little Feng Wu. It's been years since we last met. Who knew you would turn out so stunning and attractive? Had I known that you would grow into something so beautiful, I would never have let you slip out of my grasp. I should have kept you as a little slave when you were still young. But it's never too late to start. Tonight is as good a time as any. As time passed, the temperature in the room kept rising until it was like a sauna. However, the next second, Feng Wu's dagger was at Zhuo Qingliu's throat. You done talking? The murderous intent behind that abrupt cold sensation at Zhuo Qingliu's throat made his stomach lurch. Chapter 1122. Where is the lead on the broken star piece? Chapter 1122. Where is the lead on the broken star piece? Why can you still think straight? Zhuo Qinglu stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled coldly. Miss Fingqi created the Spring Breeze Powder? Said who? It had in fact been one of Feng Wu's experiments. Back then, Feng Wu had thought that if aphrodisiacs had to exist in this world, why couldn't it be something she made? If she could achieve perfection in an aphrodisiac of her making, would she be able to control people with it so as to extract information? Feng Wu, who had only been 7 or 8 then, began to develop that idea into a business. She didn't expect the Spring Breeze Powder to actually become a top-notch aphrodisiac. However, she had handed the drug to Uncle Qin back then. How did Miss Fingqi come into the picture? It seemed it was time for her to pay Uncle Qin a visit. When Feng Wu created the drug back then, she had wondered if something like this would happen to her when she grew up, given how many enemies she had. She didn't expect the notion to turn out to be a prophecy. Since Feng Wu had created the drug, she naturally had a cure for it. But Zhuo Qinglu didn't know that. He stared at Feng Wu with eyes filled with disbelief. Zhuo Qinglu asked, Why aren't you drugged? Shouldn't the drug almost be taking full effect now? It's so hot. Zhuo Qinglu kept tearing at his clothes, wishing that he could jump Feng Wu. But Feng Wu kept Zhuo Qinglu down on the ground and stepped on him. She shook her head. Time was of the essence, and she had no time to waste on Zhuo Qinglu here. She knocked Zhuo Qinglu unconscious. She had only been putting on an act for Zhuo Qinglu when she couldn't find the door earlier. In fact, Feng Wu never trusted Xian Yuaning from the start. As soon as that girl led her away, Feng Wu had been on guard. Feng Wu had figured out that it was a 7-star formation while she was in the tunnel. This dark room was only a cover for the real core of the formation. That was to say, the dark room was fake, and the real core was elsewhere. To someone who didn't know anything about formations, there was no way out of this square dark room. But Feng Wu wasn't just anybody. Her fingers moved in an indescribable way. She then stepped on 3 spots on the ground and knocked on the wall 7 times. What was more, the time interval between knocks varied, and she used a different amount of strength each time. After 3 stomps and 7 knocks, there was a click. A door slowly opened. But it wasn't the one which Xian Yuaning had led her through. Even Xian Yuaning herself probably didn't know about this particular door. Feng Wu walked through the real secret door, and soon saw the genuine treasure room. Well, Xian Yuaning, thank you for showing me this great place. Feng Wu's top priority now was to look for leads on the broken star piece. Everything else could wait. The treasure room wasn't packed. However, as a place for treasures, it was quality rather than quantity which counted. Glancing around the room, Feng Wu saw secret scrolls of the Xianyuan family, manuals, weapons, the bright dragon soil, and an unknown stone. It reminded her of a cobblestone, which glistened warmly like white jade, and had a very refreshing-looking translucent texture. What a treasure! However, after scanning the entire room with her eyes, Feng Wu didn't see anything else of interest. Where was that clue for the broken star piece? Feng Wu scratched her head. Whatever. She decided that she would take everything and study them carefully after she got back home. If she couldn't find the clue this time, she would visit Old Master Xianyuan again. Chapter 1123 Untitled. Chapter 1123 Untitled. Luckily, Feng Wu had the ring space, or she would never be able to take all those things with her. After getting out of the formation, Feng Wu thought about Zhuqinglu. Xianyuaning had deliberately locked Feng Wu inside that room. What was her purpose? What was her plan after that? In fact, Xianyuanying's true purpose wasn't that hard to guess if one followed her train of thought. It was just that Xianyuaning wasn't the only one who could frame Feng Wu with such a malicious scheme. Feng Wu could answer in kind as well. Feng Wu smiled a little. There was no time to think it over. Feng Wu quickly changed into a subterfuge outfit, which made it easier to run around at night. Feng Wu was planning to grab Xianyuaning at first. After all, Xianyuaning had come up with this, and every debt had its debtor. However, Feng Wu didn't expect to hear Lady Kai talking to an old maid when she ran past the garden. Feng Wu recognized the old maid, who followed Lady Kai around all the time. Lady Kai said, "You're a good cultivator. Keep an eye on my daughter. Do whatever she asks you to do. Follow her orders." The old maid left as instructed. Looking at the clear, bright moonlight outside, Lady Kai smiled fiercely. She said, "Ing Er, you said you're going to get revenge for me. I'm really looking forward to it." Feng Wu stopped right away. She would have to look everywhere for Xianyuaning if she wanted to catch the latter, but Lady Kai was right here. Although it would be a lot more eye-catching this way, wouldn't it? This Lady Kai wasn't all that innocent. At that thought, Feng Wu smiled a little. However, Feng Wu knew with one look that Lady Kai was a capable cultivator. She was a level 9 spiritual grandmaster at least. Yet it wasn't an impossible mission. As long as Feng Wu was careful enough, she could find a chance to suppress the lady. With that thought in mind, Feng Wu took out a dagger, then took advantage of the moonlight to quietly make her way toward Lady Kai. Poor Lady Kai. She was so overwhelmed by the thought of the pleasant surprise that Xianyuaning was supposed to give her, that she never realized someone was approaching her from behind. All of a sudden, Lady Kai felt something frighteningly cold on her neck. When she realized what was happening and wanted to cry out, a hand covered her mouth, pressing down so hard that she couldn't utter a word. "You," Feng Wu said in an eerie changed voice. "Lady Kai, it's been a while." After that, Feng Wu smashed the hilt of her dagger down on Lady Kai's nape. The next second, Lady Kai felt her head swim, and she passed out. No one knew what happened to Lady Kai, not even Xianyuaning. At that moment, she was running back to the party in a hurry, asking everyone she met on the way, "Do you know where Feng Wu is? Have you seen Feng Wu?" Xianyuaning went all the way back to the party in that flustered state. Zhuqingyu frowned. "Feng Wu? Didn't she leave with you?" Xianyuaning said, "We were walking together at first, but she then said she wanted to go by herself. I lost sight of her after that." Dugayamo asked, "How can she be missing? Where did you lose her?" Xianyuaning said, "My grandpa's courtyard." "What are you girls whispering about?" The banquet was about to start, and Lady Yu was looking for Lady Kai, the wife of the oldest son of the Xianyuan family, for the latter needed to host the event. But Lady Kai was nowhere to be found. Instead, Lady Yu found Xianyuaning, and the others gathered together as they whispered among themselves. Lady Yu couldn't help asking, "Ing Er, have you seen your mother?" Chapter 1124 Untitled. Chapter 1124 Untitled. Xian Yuaning shook her head. Isn't my mother inside? Lady, you said. An old maid asked for your mother earlier, and she left the hall. I have no idea where she went. The banquet is about to officially start. What am I going to do? Xian Yuaning screwed up her face. Aunt, my mum can wait. I have a more pressing problem here. Feng Wu is missing. What? Lady Yu's eyes widened, and she stared at Xian Yuaning. What did you do to Miss Feng? Lady Northern Feng was boredly drinking tea while she waited for Feng Wu to come back. She waited and waited, but Feng Wu never appeared. Lady Northern Feng was growing impatient, and when she heard that, her gaze shifted in that direction right away. Her gaze was very sharp. Right then, she rose to her feet and headed in Xian Yuaning's direction with Granny Tao at her elbow. What was that? Where's my Xiaowu? Lady Northern Feng stared at Xian Yuaning with eyes filled with murderous intent. Deep down, Xian Yuaning feared Lady Northern Feng. She was ridden with a guilty conscience as soon as the lady stared at her. Zhuo Qingyu poked Xian Yuaning in the waist, reminding the latter not to give herself away. That was right. Xian Yuaning stealthily clenched her fists and took a deep breath. Feng Wu is missing. Lady Northern Feng instantly had a fierce and frightening look in her eyes. Grabbing Xian Yuaning's collar, she lifted her off the ground. What did you say? A lot of noble ladies were present, and seeing this, they all tried to dissuade Lady Northern Feng. My lady, please don't do this. Ing-er is just a kid. Lady Northern Feng said. My Xiaowu is also just a kid. Tell me now, where did you hide her? Xian Yuaning put on a long face. Your ladyship, I really have no idea. Earlier, Feng Wu heard about the bright dragon soil my grandfather received. She said that the soil could make her reach a breakthrough faster, and she forced me to take her there. Xian Yuaning said between broken sobs. I offended her earlier today, and to make up for it I took her there, even if I knew I shouldn't. Bright dragon soil? Everyone's eyes widened. What a treasure! It was a substance that was so hard to come by. Impossible. Lady Northern Feng disagreed right away. Xiaowu isn't a greedy, reckless child. Zhuo Qingyu smiled bitterly at that moment. I think I said the wrong thing when I mentioned that my sister is already a level 7 spiritual elder, and would become a spiritual lord by the end of this year. Feng Wu was agitated by the news, which was why she did such an unreasonable thing. It's all my fault. Lady Northern Feng, punish me all you want. Lady Northern Feng stared at Zhuo Qingyu, and her chest heaved violently with anger. This Zhuo Qingyu was quite the character. She talked up Zhuo Qinghuan and trashed Feng Wu in the same breath, making Feng Wu sound like a bad girl who was jealous and had problems controlling her emotions. Dugu Yamo gave a wry smile as well. I was there the whole time and I can attest to it. They're telling the truth. Feng Wu begged Ing-er, and even threatened her with her connection to Northern Feng Mansion. She said that as long as Ing-er took her there, she wouldn't tell your ladyship on Ing-er, otherwise. After Zhuo Qingyu's slander of Feng Wu, Dugu Yamo went on making false accusations against her, giving an impression of Feng Wu as an evil, unreasonable girl who bullied others with her power. Few people in this world were clear-headed. The majority simply parroted the views of others. What was more, the more slander was repeated, the more people believed it. What the girls said took effect right away, and the noble ladies in the hall all began to think poorly of Feng Wu. Chapter 1125 Untitled. Chapter 1125 Untitled. The noble ladies spoke to Lady Northern Feng in turn. Your ladyship, judging by what's happened, you really need to watch Feng Wu more closely. Your ladyship, they're all saying the same thing, so it's really possible that. Your ladyship. However, no matter what the others said, Lady Northern Feng remained adamant and waved her hand. Someone else might do that, but not my Xiaowu. After that, Lady Northern Feng stared at Xian Yuaning. I now have reason to believe that you girls conspired to set my Xiaowu up. Take us there and find her. Now. Xian Yuaning had gone through all this trouble, just so that she could lure everyone over to watch the grand finale. Xian Yuanyu glared at his troublesome niece. Take us there now. Xian Yuaning nodded in a hurry. Sure, of course. I'll take you there right now. Before she left, Xian Yuaning glanced at Zhuo Qingyu and the others, and they all understood the twinkle in each other's eyes. Soon, everyone arrived at old Master Xuanyuan's courtyard. Xian Yuaning said, "We parted ways here. Feng Wu said she was in a bad mood and needed some time alone, so I left her here. I waited for a long while, but she never came back." Hence, everyone spread out to look for Feng Wu, and they searched the limited area around the bushes, the rocks behind them. They left no stone unturned, but there was still no trace of Feng Wu. Just then, there were sounds from inside, and old Master Xianyuan finally made his belated entrance. Wearing a red and black long robe decorated with golden thread and dark patterns, he was in high spirits and ready to receive the homage of his offspring in the main hall. However, he saw so many people as soon as he came out of the room, and was baffled. Since it was his birthday today, the old man didn't release his spiritual essence, and only thought of himself as a regular old guy. "What's going on?" The old man frowned. "Grandpa!" Xian Yuaning ran over to him, wrapped her arms around his thigh and cried, "Grandpa, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry." Xian Yuan Kuan shook his head. "Just tell me what happened." Hence, between broken sobs, Xian Yuaning told her grandfather everything. Xian Yuaning said, "Grandpa, I really didn't mean to. I just wanted to show Feng Wu how real bright dragon soil can purify one's mind and invigorate one's body continuously." Old Master Xianyuan glanced at Xian Yuaning in resignation. "You really should be punished, but the bright dragon soil is well hidden. She won't be able to find it." Xian Yuaning nodded excitedly. Just then, they heard a surprised cry from somewhere nearby. Everyone exchanged looks, and all rushed in that direction. Old Master Xianyuan moved especially fast, and his gaze was as sharp as a cold blade. Because those rocks were the key to entering his secret treasure room. Old Master Xianyuan was the first to rush in, and the first thing he saw was the door that the key would open. Instantly, he narrowed his eyes, a dangerous look in them, because he could tell that the door had been tampered with. He frowned and blanched a little. Smashing the door open with his big hand, he rushed in, moving as fast as a streak of lightning. The faces of the others went pale as well when they saw this. The grave look on old Master Xuanyuan's face reminded them of the sky before a storm, and it was terrifying. Fearing that Feng Wu might get hurt, Lady Northern Feng rushed into the tunnel right after that with her guards. With old Master Xianyuan inside, then Lady Northern Feng and her guards. Chapter 1126 Untitled. Chapter 1126 Untitled. Xian Yuaning, Zhuo Qingyu, and Dugu Yamo also rushed in like cannonballs, running so fast that no one had time to stop them. The rest of the onlookers were all wealthy, respectable people whom Xian Yuan, you couldn't exactly stop. As a result, almost everyone went inside after that. Instantly, the tunnel was almost blocked. Luckily, there was an open space right outside the secret room, which was wide enough to fit everyone. Meanwhile, old Master Xianyuan was unlocking the door to the secret room. His eyes narrowed, and a stern look on his face. Xian Yuaning turned her head, and exchanged looks with Zhuo Qingyu and the others. Their eyes shone with excitement. They had planned for so long just for this moment. Once that door was opened, Feng Wu's reputation would be in the mud. It would be a traumatizing event for a woman, but for a man, it would be no more than another romantic affair. Zhuo Qingyu's plan was to have Zhuo Qinglu take Feng Wu back to the Zhuo family afterward, but of course not as his wife. She would merely be a concubine. Once Feng Wu was in the Zhuo family, she would be at their mercy. Zhuo Qingyu was still savoring her plan when, with a click, the door to the secret room opened. A wave of hot air blasted them as soon as the door opened, and a streak of blood flowed out. Blood. Had Zhuo Qinglu gone too far and killed Feng Wu? Xian Yuaning and Zhuo Qingyu exchanged startled looks. But soon they realized that something was off. Feng Wu lay on the ground in her pretty dress, and fresh red blood flowed down her wrist and toward the door. Her dress was pristine and neat, and she didn't look a bit like someone who had just been raped. This wasn't right. Xian Yuaning and Zhuo Qingyu gave each other confused looks. Where was Zhuo Qinglu? Xian Yuanying and Zhuo Qingyu ran into the room right away. However, the secret room was only 10 square meters in size and was void of any furniture. One could tell with a glance that it was completely empty. Where's Zhuo Qinglu? Grabbing Zhuo Qingyu, Xian Yuanying wanted to throttle the latter. She thought they had a deal. The plan was to have Zhuo Qinglu rape Feng Wu. Zhuo Qingyu looked equally dumbfounded. She had gone over the plan with Zhuo Qinglu, and he had agreed to everything. But where was he? Meanwhile, Lady Northern Feng and Feng Sun had already rushed in. Holding Feng Wu up, Feng Sun asked anxiously, "Xiao Wu, what happened? Why is your hand bleeding?" Feng Wu said in a weak, broken voice, "Get out. This secret room has poison." Hearing that, those who wanted to enter all stepped back involuntarily. "What poison?" asked Lady Northern Feng. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. "Spring breeze powder, an aphrodisiac. Unfortunately, you're the only one here?" Lady Northern Feng gritted her teeth. She was no fool, and could tell that this was the sort of trap that women often used to set one another up. At that thought, Lady Northern Feng threw a dirty look at Xian Yuanying. "I was trapped here and didn't have an antidote on me, so I had to cut my wrist and let the toxin flow out with my blood. It helped a lot with easing the sickening effect." An aphrodisiac. Feng Wu had been locked up here and drugged with an aphrodisiac. "Who locked you in here?" "Who?" Lady Northern Feng gritted her teeth in rage. Feng Wu pointed at Xian Yuanying without hesitation. Right now, Xian Yuanying was utterly flustered. Chapter 1127 Untitled. Chapter 1127 Untitled. This wasn't supposed to happen. The original plan was that she would lead everyone here, and they would all witness what Feng Wu and Zhuo Qinglu were doing. By then, no one would care how loudly Feng Wu cried or what she said, for no one would believe her. But now, Xian Yuanying didn't expect to find Feng Wu lying in the secret room alone, and unaffected by the aphrodisiac for the most part. She didn't know how to respond. Hence, all Xian Yuanying could do now was deny it affirmatively. She said, "No, I didn't lock you up here. Feng Wu, you're making all that up." Feng Wu snorted. "Yes, you did. You locked me up here yourself, and said you would send a man in to rape me. Luckily, I found your scheme out soon enough, or my reputation would have been ruined by now." Xian Yuanying said, "If you're out to condemn someone, you can trump up a charge however you please." Feng Wu asked, "Xian Yuanying, are you going to keep denying it?" Xian Yuanying said, "I didn't do anything to you. Why should I admit it?" After taking a breath, she went on. "Feng Wu, I know I offended you earlier, but didn't I already apologize to you? Why are you still trying to frame me?" Feng Wu smirked. "So, you're saying that I locked myself up in this secret room, drugged myself with an aphrodisiac, then cut my own wrist open to win everyone's confidence?" Xian Yuanying said, "You said all that, not me." For a moment, everyone eyed both Feng Wu and Xian Yuanying suspiciously, not knowing who to trust. Feng Wu said, "What if I said that I have proof?" Xian Yuanying said, "Do whatever you want with me if you can show us proof. I didn't do it, so bring it on. You don't scare me." Feng Wu gritted her teeth. Xian Yuanying took that as a sign of Feng Wu's guilty conscience and retorted right away. "Didn't you say you have proof? Show us. Don't tell me those were just empty words." Lowering her head and clenching her fists, Feng Wu looked unsure of herself. Xian Yuanying became aggressive. "You're making the whole thing up, saying that I tried to set you up. I'm a good innocent girl from a good family, and I'll get married one day. Even if I can forgive you for ruining my reputation like this, the Xian Yuan family won't." What Xian Yuanying said put the entire Xian Yuan family on her side. As expected, the other members of the Xian Yuan family chimed in. Xian Yuan Shuiyue was especially loud. She had been keeping a frustrated silence for a while. Of course she wouldn't let go of such a great opportunity. Hence, Xian Yuan Shuiyue smirked. "That's right. Show us your proof. Or admit that you tried to set her up. It's all an act." Feng Wu looked like she was going to vomit blood from frustration. She swayed, as if she was going to collapse. Infuriated, Feng Sun wanted to rush out and beat those people up. However, at that moment, a yellow bird flew in and landed on Xian Yuanying's shoulder. It mimicked Xian Yuanying's voice and said, "Sister Xiaowu, let's be straight. I offended you earlier, and I've now taken you here to see the bright dragon soil. We're even after this. You can't hold me accountable anymore." Everyone was astonished. Since the parrot just happened to be sitting on Xian Yuanying's shoulder, everyone else thought that the words were coming out of Xian Yuanying's own mouth. Hearing that, Xian Yuanying was dumbfounded. Those were the exact words she had said to Fengwu earlier, and this bird had recited the whole thing. It sounded exactly like Xian Yuanying herself. Chapter 1128 Untitled. Chapter 1128 Untitled. Xian Yuanying panicked and involuntarily tried to catch the yellow parrot. However, the bird seemed to be an expert at dodging, and the next moment, it was on Fengwu's shoulder. It mimicked Fengwu's voice. "Actually, I'm not that into the bright dragon soil." The others were all baffled. Xian Yuanying had turned frantic, and she yelled at the top of her lungs, "Catch the bird! Catch it!" However, as soon as the people of the Xian Yuan family tried to move, Lady Northern Feng's guards stopped them. The yellow parrot went on with its performance. It said in Xian Yuanying's voice, "I know, Sister Xiaowu. You never wanted to come, but I forced you to come with me, right?" Then there came Fengwu's voice. "Yes." Xian Yuanying couldn't stand it anymore. If she didn't do something, the situation would only turn against her. And when that happened, flustered, Xian Yuanying wanted to snap the stupid bird's neck. However, Feng Sun took action as soon as she stepped forward. He caught Xian Yuanying, pinned her hands behind her back, then tied her up with a mortal restraining rope, and threw her on the ground with a thud. Xian Yuanying cried loudly, "Kill the bird! Kill it now! It's talking nonsense!" The bird went on reciting the conversation. Xian Yuanying's voice rang out, "My grandpa isn't here right now, so why don't we take this opportunity to steal some of that soil for you? It'll help you with your cultivation." Then there was Fengwu's voice. "Steal the bright dragon soil? That's not what you told me earlier. You said we would just look at it." In Xian Yuanying's voice, "A thief never leaves empty-handed. Haven't you heard that before? Since we're already here, you'd be a moron if you didn't take some bright dragon soil away with you while you're at it." In Fengwu's voice, "But it belongs to your grandfather. How can you steal from him?" "No, don't believe the bird. It's making things up. Just kill it." Xian Yuanying was still putting up one last struggle. However, a lot of people besides the members of the Xian Yuan family knew that the yellow parrot belonged to Old Master Xian Yuan, because the old man often had such a parrot on his arm while he strolled around the campus of Imperial College. Hence, everyone started discussing among themselves in whispers. "That's not just any bird, but one that Old Master Xian Yuan raised himself. Everyone knows it. You can't make that up." So, Xian Yuanying really was lying. I didn't expect that. She was just telling us that Fengwu demanded to see the bright dragon soil. But it turned out that she was the one who wanted to see it. Inverting justice and throwing mud at other people. This Miss Xian Yuan is quite the character. She's such an expert liar for her age. Hearing the criticism and ridicule, Xian Yuanying was so mad that she almost vomited blood. Things weren't working out the way she had planned. "I didn't do it. There's something wrong with the bird. Fengwu messed with it. I'm sure of it." People might have believed Xian Yuanying at first, but a lot of them had now attested that this was indeed Old Master Xuan Yuan's bird. What was Old Master Xian Yuan doing at that moment? Everyone looked for him, but he wasn't here. The bird went on talking. All of a sudden, the bird mimicked a thump. "Fengwu, did you really think I was going to take you to some treasure room? Ha ha ha. Xian Yuanying, you set me up. You led me into this trap. I'll get back at you even if I turn into a ghost. You're not going anywhere. Soon you'll wish you were dead." Chapter 1129. What were they seeing? Chapter 1129. What were they seeing? Then there was Fengwu's voice. "Aren't you afraid that Northern Feng Mansion will take revenge for me?" Xian Yuanying's voice rang out. "Ha ha ha ha. Northern Feng Mansion? Lady Northern Feng really is an arrogant character. But after your reputation is ruined, do you think she'll still want you as a daughter? I'd worry about yourself if I were you. Ha 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 ha. This yellow parrot was spectacular. Not only did it have an amazing memory, its ability to imitate others made one want to slap a table and say bravo. It could mimic voices as well as facial expressions. It imitated Xian Yuanying's breathing, expressions, and manner of speaking to a T. The resemblance was almost frightening. If that wasn't proof, then what was? Lady Northern Feng flared up. Xian Yuaning, you've been lying through your teeth. We almost believed you. Seeing that her lie had been exposed, Xian Yuaning turned to flee. But it was too late for that now. Lady Northern Feng's guards weren't paid for their good looks. Two men blocked Xian Yuanying's way, ensuring that she wasn't going anywhere. Then, Lady Northern Feng rushed over and reached out to grab Xian Yuanying, dragging the latter over to her side. Lady Northern Feng was merciless when she took action. She started beating Xian Yuanying up right away. The others watched with open mouths. Families like theirs never punished their daughters the way Lady Northern Feng was doing. Their most severe punishment was to lock the girls up and make them transcribe Buddhist scriptures. A beating like this was unheard of. However, people of the Xian Yuan family didn't dare utter a word as the lady threw punches at Xian Yuanying. After all, what Xian Yuanying had done was beyond shameless. The beating alone wasn't going to be enough. They knew that Lady Northern Feng would be demanding more later. Feng Wu calculated the time and realized that those two people should be overwhelmed by their passion by now. At that thought, Feng Wu struggled to her feet and left Feng Sun's arms. She went up to the lady. Mother, please stop. You'll hurt your hands. Lady Northern Feng swept her hand through the air in vexation, throwing Xian Yuanying at the wall of the secret room. Well, Feng Wu had chosen her spot after careful calculation. And she tampered with the angle and the speed at which Xian Yuanying flew out. Because only by doing that could she ensure that they would see an even better show next. What a waste of this big crowd if she didn't show them something sensational. Thud! Xian Yuanying slammed into the wall, and soon, there was a rumbling sound. Lady Northern Feng was so strong. Everyone wondered if Xian Yuanying had been injured by that throw. They were still wondering when they heard a click. The door opened, and the secret room started moving all of a sudden, as it began to rotate on the spot. No one noticed how livid old Master Xuanyuan's face had become. Click! The secret room rotated 180 degrees, so that the small, empty room which Feng Wu had been in earlier moved to the back. The other side that had been in the dark was now facing the crowd. Only that, when they realized what they were seeing, everyone's eyes opened so wide that their eyeballs popped. Holy shit! They couldn't believe their eyes. The door to this secret room was wide open, and inside, two naked bodies were intertwined and busy with each other. The positions, the motions, the sounds. It was so stimulating that everyone blushed and looked away. Someone said all of a sudden, "Isn't this the old master's treasure room? Had the old master hidden something here?" Chapter 1130, How Shocking! Chapter 1130, How Shocking! Old Master Xian Yuan himself was blushing. How was he supposed to know what was going on? However, his biggest concern at the moment wasn't who was doing what inside, but if his treasure was still safe inside. He rushed into the room in vexation and kicked the people out before he saw their faces. The two bodies were still intertwined in midair and wouldn't part from each other. However, the impact of the fall forced them to separate. But, when they saw who the two people were, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" People screamed, cried out, and drew in their breaths. It was horrible. The scene made all eyes widen and left everyone speechless, their mouths agape. Lady Northern Feng was equally amazed. Isn't this Lady Kai? She was right. The heroine of the incident, and the naked woman lying on the ground, was none other than Lady Kai herself. As for her male partner, it was Zhuo Qinglu. Someone cried out his name. Yes, the hero of the story was the second son of the Zhuo family, the womanizer. Oh God, it's the second young master of the Zhuo family. Lady Kai and young masters with a second. They're not even of the same generation. Lady Kai is the wife of the oldest son of the Xianyuan family. And today is old Master Xuanyuan's birthday party. They couldn't wait? Not to mention that they were doing it in the old master's treasure room. That's so. No wonder we couldn't find Lady Kai anywhere earlier. She was... Oh God, I need to unsee that. How horrible. As soon as they recognized Lady Kai and Zhuo Qinglu, Xianyuan Yi and Zhuo Qingyu removed their outer robes and threw them over the two bodies. Xianyuan Zhe was the most shocked person of them all. And the most humiliated for that matter. Xianyuan Zhe's face was darker than a stormy sky. Not only did a roomful of people see his wife cheating, she was doing it with a man of a younger generation, who was the son of a close friend. Infuriated, Xianyuan Zhe rushed over and tried to throttle Zhuo Qinglu. He moved so fast. The others didn't have time to react. Zhuo Qinglu, who had finally come back to his senses, was still bewildered. He then had to face the fear of death. Let go of my brother. Let go of him. Zhuo Qingyu screamed. Help! Please help me. So many people were watching, and they couldn't just let Zhuo Qinglu die like this. Hence, they all rushed over and dragged Xianyuan Zhe away. Zhuo Qingliu's face had turned a bluish-purple color, and he was barely breathing. Feng Wu crouched down next to him and checked his breathing. He's dying and needs medical care. As she spoke, Feng Wu started working on him with her golden needles. Feng Wu had taken action because she had to keep Zhuo Qinglu unconscious. Otherwise, if he woke up and ranted that he had planned to rape Feng Wu, she would become part of this scandal. And Feng Wu wasn't going to let that happen. What are you doing? Zhuo Qingyu stared at Feng Wu alarmed. Feng Wu shrugged. Is that how you treat a good Samaritan? If it isn't for me, Zhuo Qinglu would be dead by now. Zhuo Qingyu said. But he's... Chapter 1131 Father. No. Chapter 1131 Father. No. Feng Wu said. You'll have to ask Master Xianyuan then. But if you ask me, Zhuo Qinglu will wake up in a few hours. Zhuo Qingyu stared at Feng Wu. Since when are you so kind? Feng Wu said. It's not like you've tried to harm me or anything. Why should I hold a grudge against you? Or have you tried to harm me? Zhuo Qingyu glared at Feng Wu. You're imagining things. After that, Zhuo Qingyu threw Zhuo Qinglu over her shoulder and fled the scene, taking advantage of the chaos. Otherwise, Zhuo Qinglu would surely be killed after the Xianyuan family realized what had happened. Seeing that he couldn't kill Zhuo Qinglu, Xianyuan Zhe took out a dagger and tried to stab Lady Kai in the chest. Father! No! Of course Xianyuan wouldn't watch her mother get killed, not to mention that she had been the mastermind behind this scheme. Xianyuan Ying's shriek drew all attention to Lady Kai, making it impossible for Xianyuan Zhe to kill her. Just then furious bellows came from inside the room. There was then the sound of shelves being overturned and shattered. What was going on? Everyone was baffled. Feng Wu was the only one in the crowd who knew what was going on. She had taken all 10 items that old Master Xianyuan kept there as his treasures. Then, old Master Xianyuan rushed out of the room and bellowed, "No one leaves." His voice was like a thunderclap exploding over the crowd. Everyone felt their ears buzz, and the pain was so piercing that they felt like their ears were bleeding. Dad, what happened? Xianyuan Yu looked startled. Old Master Xianyuan was very sensitive about his reputation, and all the guests here for his birthday party were from influential families. The old man had lost his senses and was in a frantic state. Those were some of his most prized possessions. As the saying went, a clever rabbit had 3 burrows. He didn't put all his eggs in the same basket, but the treasures here consisted of at least a third of what he had accumulated throughout his life. He was being driven mad. Seeing how crazed old Master Xianyuan looked, Feng Wu realized how precious the 10 items she had taken were. The next moment, Xianyuan stared at Feng Wu. He then marched toward her. Feng Sun blocked his way and glared at the old man. What are you doing? The old man was still in a rage and didn't care who Feng Sun was. He swept his hand through the air, exerting a wave of energy that reminded one of a gigantic tide. Feng Sun was a capable cultivator himself, but he couldn't withstand even a single strike from the old man. He flew backward. The next second, Lady Northern Feng shielded Feng Wu with her own body. Right now, Old Master Xianyuan had bloodshot eyes and smoke coming out of his nostrils. He stared at Feng Wu as if she was his ultimate enemy. Lady Northern Feng glared at the old man and warned him in a cold voice. "No matter what happened, Old Master, I'd like you to calm down." All 18 knights of Northern Feng Mansion lined up in front of Lady Northern Feng. Their attitude couldn't be any more straightforward. Anyone who tried to lay a finger on Lady Northern Feng would have to do so over their dead bodies. In a normal situation, Old Master Xianyuan wouldn't be so frantic. But this wasn't just any situation. Of the 10 items that were missing from the treasure room, the bright dragon soil was only important enough for him to feel a little sorry. As for the martial arts manuals of the Xianyuan family, he had memorized them all. Chapter 1132, No One is Leaving. Chapter 1132, No One is Leaving. But one of the treasures was more important than his life. That was why Old Master Xianyuan had such a frantic reaction. The old man struck out right away. Thump, thump, thump. The 18 knights were almighty cultivators. But the Xianyuan family wasn't without powerful cultivators. On the contrary, they had more of those than one could count. For instance, all 18 elders who had been hiding in the dark jumped out of their hiding places. Thump, thump, thump. Fighting broke out everywhere. What a chaotic scene. Seeing that things were getting messy, the onlookers all turned to leave. However, Old Master Xianyuan bellowed, "No one leaves. Xianyuan, you close off the passageway. Kill anyone who tries to leave." Those were some very harsh words. What on earth was going on here? The guests exchanged looks, and everyone looked confused and terrified. The 18 elders and 18 knights of Northern Feng Mansion fought in the air, and neither side could get the upper hand. Old Master Xianyuan, on the other hand, went directly for Feng Wu. Lady Northern Feng stood ramrod straight in front of Feng Wu like a mother hen guarding its chick. She was furious. "Don't you dare touch my Xiao Wu. Over my dead body." Old Master Xuanyuan's bloodshot eyes couldn't see anything else. With a wave of his hand, Lady Northern Feng was brushed aside. Lady Northern Feng couldn't stop stumbling forward at the impact. Luckily, Granny Tao reacted quickly and caught her in time, preventing her from suffering any injury. Meanwhile, Old Master Xianyuan was staring at Feng Wu with his cold eyes, and he reached out with his strong right arm. He opened his hand and wrapped it around Feng Wu's thin, fair neck with a vice-like grip. Feng Wu was lifted off the ground until her feet dangled in the air. This was so dangerous. Instantly, Feng Wu realized that her air was cut off. She couldn't breathe. She was being suffocated. Instinctively, Feng Wu's legs kicked around. Her face turned a bluish-purple color, and her pupils began to dilate. Lady Northern Feng was sick with worry. She ran up to the old man in a frantic state. "Put her down. Put her down now. You're going to kill her." Old Master Xianyuan stared at Feng Wu and bellowed, "Speak. Where did you hide them?" By then, Xianyuan had rushed into the inner room, and he ran out with a look of disbelief on his face. "It's gone. All the treasure inside is gone." His grandfather had shown the room to him before, telling him that everything inside would be his one day. But just like that, they were all gone. Cough. Feng Wu wanted to speak, but no air would enter her lungs. She pointed at her mouth, indicating that she wanted to say something. The old man snorted, then tossed Feng Wu onto the ground. He said furiously, "Spill." Cough, cough. Feng Wu coughed violently and gasped for air. Rushing over, Lady Northern Feng wrapped her arms around Feng Wu, feeling so sorry for the girl. She then shot a warning glance at the old man. "This isn't over. Northern Feng Mansion will get to the bottom of this." The old master wouldn't even glance at Lady Northern Feng. He kept his gaze on Feng Wu. Feng Wu knew that she couldn't reveal anything about the treasure, or there would be consequences. "Speak," Old Master Xianyuan bellowed. Feng Wu lay in Lady Northern Feng's arms, but kept her gaze on the old man. With a pale face, she asked weakly, I don't know what to tell you. The old man said, Where did you hide all the treasure that was in that room? Speak. Chapter 1133, Feng Wu Panics. Chapter 1133, Feng Wu Panics. Feng Wu only looked more bewildered and innocent. Was there something in the room? Old Master Xianyuan was even more furious. Feng Wu said, The room I was in was empty. Apart from myself, there was nothing in it. Old Master Xianyuan narrowed his eyes in a threatening manner. Feng Sun snorted. Old Master, can't you see for yourself? Xiao Wu was locked inside the room and couldn't get out. If she could, she wouldn't need to cut herself to neutralize the poison by bleeding out. That was right. The others nodded. The old man's treasures had been stolen. But it couldn't have been Feng Wu who did it, for even if she had, she didn't have any place to hide them. Staring at Lady Kai, Feng Sun snorted. Old Master, Lady Kai and Zhuo Qinglu had free access to your treasure room. Don't you think that those two are the ones you should ask? He was right. Only then was everyone struck with realization. The secret room Feng Wu had been in was obviously a fake one, and the one Lady Kai had come out of was the real treasure room. Old Master Xianyuan looked bewildered. Only then did he realize that was the case. However, when he looked up, Where's Zhuo Qinglu? The old man's face darkened, and he narrowed his eyes. He's gone. I saw Zhuo Qinglu carry him off as soon as she had the chance. Someone in the crowd spoke loudly. Old Master Xianyuan darted a glance at the elders. With a whoosh, the elders disappeared from the crowd right away. However, although they are my prime suspects, that doesn't mean that you're innocent. Search them. Old Master Xianyuan bellowed. Naturally, the guests didn't like it, but Old Master Xianyuan was acting like a madman, and there was nothing they could do to fight back. However, with what happened, everyone now knew how the Xianyuan family dealt with other people. From then on, they naturally became distant from the Xianyuan family. As for Lady Kai, Old Master Xianyuan warned that if word got out, and they discovered the person who leaked the news, the Xianyuan family would do everything they could to kill them. That severe warning frightened a lot of people, and it went without saying that not many people would gossip about it. However, ambiguous rumors were bound to get around, but that wasn't until a while later. The Xianyuan family searched everyone, but they couldn't find anything. In the end, Old Master Xianyuan turned his gaze on Feng Wu again. He slowly walked toward her. That instant, Feng Wu suddenly had a bad feeling. The old man raised his hand and reached for Feng Wu's head. No! Feng Sun roared, then tried to rush over. Old Master Xianyuan was going to search Feng Wu's memories with the power of his soul. Feng Wu wasn't capable enough at the moment, and her soul was vulnerable. If anything went wrong, she could be crippled mentally. But no one was able to stop the old man. Feng Wu hadn't been worried at first, but when she realized that Old Master Xianyuan was going to search her mind, she panicked, which she never did. If he really read her mind, there was no way she would be able to survive. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Sight only. Even if the old man couldn't find anything in her memories, once something went wrong, he could turn her into an idiot. What should she do? Feng Wu was flustered, despite the unperturbed look on her face. Feng Sun, Lady Northern Feng, and the guards. None of them could stop the frenzied old man. No matter how many threats Lady Northern Feng threw at him, he wouldn't listen. His big hand landed on Feng Wu's crown, and a chilly sensation ran down Feng Wu's spine. Chapter 1134, Formidable Power. Chapter 1134, Formidable Power. A chill ran down Feng Wu's spine. She shivered from head to toe at the cold, and froze on the spot. Looking up, she met Old Master Xuanyuan's eyes. What a pair of eyes! They were gloomy and ferocious, and there was a cold glint in them that was even more terrifying than the dark. Instantly, Feng Wu felt a despair that she had never felt before, and was reminded of the time when she was trapped by the Zhuo family, and Zhuo Qingwan destroyed her divine phoenix blood. It hurt. When Old Master Xuanyuan's spiritual essence entered Feng Wu's Lingtai point from his palm, Feng Wu felt as if her head was being pierced with a long and thick needle. and she felt an electric current run through her. The next moment, her entire body went numb and her mind was blank. Feng Wu had a very bad feeling. She could hear the bellows and angry cries of Lady Northern Feng and the others, but the voices grew distant, and her pupils began to dilate. Her eyelids were getting heavier. If she closed her eyes, she might never open them again. And the next time she opened them, she might be mentally handicapped. Hence, when old Master Xin Yuan tried to hypnotize Feng Wu used all her mental strength to fight him. Wait! The old master was surprised inwardly. Feng Wu's cultivation level was nothing to him, which was why he thought he could easily extract Feng Wu's soul, look into her mind, and search her memories. But only after he started working did he realize how difficult it was to open her mind. It seemed that he had to crush her mind completely. The old master didn't care about the consequences. He wanted results. No, Feng Sun cried out. He's going to force Xiao Wu's mind open. If he succeeds, Xiao Wu really is going to become mentally crippled. Oh God, how can old Master Xin Yuan do this? Stop. Stop it. However, neither Lady Northern Feng nor Feng Sun could stop the frenzied old Master Xin Yuan. The others had lost all hope when a cold gust of wind hit old Master Xin Yuan, and there was a loud bang. The old man felt a numbing pain in his wrist, and he instantly couldn't feel a thing with that arm. How formidable was this power? Everyone in the room turned around to look behind them. A godlike figure landed gracefully. The teenager had beautiful eyes and a handsome face that could take one's breath away. The moment he showed up, he looked around the room in the same way that an emperor inspected his land. The pride of a sovereign that was on his face made everyone want to go down on their knees and pay homage. His Royal Highness. Oh God, it's His Royal Highness Junlin Yuan. No wonder the old master's hand was smacked away. His Royal Highness is the only one who can do that. Right now, the Crown Prince's unblinking gaze was fixed on old Master Xin Yuan, his eyes like dark whirlpools before a coming storm. The next second, he picked Feng Wu up and moved 10 meters away. Boss Jun! Feng Sun cried out in a hoarse voice, so excited that he couldn't say anything coherent. Because Feng Sun had been bellowing at the old man nonstop, his throat was now so raw that he could barely make a sound. Boss Jun! Rushing over in excitement, Feng Sun snatched Feng Wu out of Junlin Yuan's arms. He looked Feng Wu up and down and asked anxiously, Xiao Wu, are you alright? Talk to me. Are you okay? Feng Wu was still dizzy, because the old man had tried to search her memories just then. She had shut her mind up like a clam. The only thing she cared about was the secret about her beautiful master. Feng Wu would rather die than let other people know about it. Chapter 1135. All Hail His Royal Highness. Chapter 1135. All Hail His Royal Highness. Luckily, Junlin Yuan got here in time. His face was the first thing Feng Wu saw when she opened her eyes. Junlin Yuan had a bone-chilling look on his well-defined face. He looked as cruel and fierce as Satan himself, making the others tremble with fear. But somehow, Feng Wu wasn't intimidated at all. Instead, she smiled a little. Boss Jun. Feng Sun pointed at the old man and loudly complained to Junlin Yuan. That old fool is outrageous. He nearly crippled Xiao Wu mentally. Boss Jun, teach him a lesson for us. Junlin Yuan's brooding black eyes immediately turned bloodshot, and his thin lips were so red that they seemed to bleed. No one else had been able to stop the frenzied old man, but Junlin Yuan's stare made the old man's stomach lurch all of a sudden. A giant hand seemed to grip his heart, and the pain almost suffocated him. That was impossible. Xin Yuan Kuan bellowed in his head. The teenager was indeed a capable cultivator, but the last time Xin Yuan Kuan met Junlin Yuan, he definitely hadn't been the old man's equal. But now, even Xin Yuan Kuan himself couldn't detect Junlin Yuan's actual cultivation level. He only knew that it was beyond his imagination, and it was strangely terrifying. The old man was so awestruck that he didn't dare make any reckless moves. It was a submissive mentality that he would only have in the face of an extremely powerful cultivator. Xin Yuan Kuan stared at Junlin Yuan in disbelief. Despite the crown prince's unparalleled talent, He was still just a teenager. Did you hurt her? The look on Jun Linyuan's face was cold, and the words that came out of his mouth even colder. Xianyuan Kuan didn't dare to be presumptuous in front of Jun Linyuan. He snorted. Your Royal Highness, you're assuming things. Feng Sun complained loudly. What's that supposed to mean? You mistreated little Feng Wu. Your stuff might have been stolen, but Xiao Wu is the victim here. We haven't asked you for compensation yet, but you falsely accused Xiao Wu of stealing your things, and you tried to search her memories. Old Master Xianyuan snorted. Searching her memories will prove her innocence. I was doing it for her own good. Feng Sun smirked. Can you promise that you can use that mind-searching method without damaging her brain? Crossing his hands behind his back, the old master raised his chin proudly. No, I can't. Feng Sun was infuriated. How can you still be that righteous when you know that? Old Master Xianyuan looked at Feng Sun, as if the latter was an idiot. She's just a girl from some declining family. Why is Northern Feng Mansion even bothering to take her side? If you like girls like that. The old master darted a glance at Xianyuan Ing. I'll give her to you in compensation. Feng Sun was so furious that he almost choked as he stomped his foot in a frenzy. Like hell I'm going to take your family's ugly vicious girl. I won't have her, even if her dowry is the entire Xianyuan mansion. Well, that was a very offensive thing to say, but Lady Northern Feng didn't stop Feng Sun. After all, what old Master Xianyuan said had been pretty offensive too. The old man was furious. You ungrateful brat. Get out. Get out of my mansion now. With the crown prince backing him up, Feng Sun was more confident than ever. Resting his hands on his waist, he said, Do you think you can bully my Xiao Wu for nothing? I'm not leaving just because you said so. Mind you, old man, we're not going anywhere today until you give us a satisfactory explanation. After some thought, Feng Sun turned to Jun Linyuan. Boss Jun, they poisoned Xiao Wu with spring breeze powder. Spring breeze powder? The crown prince frowned, and there was a confused look on his breathtakingly beautiful face. Chapter 1136, Jun Linyuan. Have you lost your mind? Chapter 1136 Jun Linyuan. Have you lost your mind? Feng Sun glanced at Jun Linyuan and realized how ignorant his boss Jun was in this aspect. It's an aphrodisiac that can turn anyone into a thirsty wolf, Feng Sun explained loudly. They also locked little Feng Wu up in a room, so that she would die from bleeding out through her nose, mouth, and ears from not getting any release. But what they didn't know was that Xiao Wu knows how to counteract the effect of that aphrodisiac. Feng Sun snorted. I guess there's divine justice after all, ha ha ha. With what's happened between Lady Kai and Zhuo Qinglu, the Xianyuan family is so humiliated this time. Old Master Xuanyuan's face darkened right away. Xianyuan Zhe, and the rest of the Xianyuan family, didn't look any better either. Die! Xianyuan Zhe charged at Feng Sun like an infuriated lion. Thump! Before he could reach Feng Sun, Lady Northern Feng, who had been standing on the side, grabbed a brick next to the rocks and smashed it down on Xianyuan Zhe's head. Thump! The brick hit Xianyuan Zhe right in the forehead, and blood gushed out right away. Furious, the old man was about to lash out, but Jun Linyuan blocked his way. As a matter of fact, ever since the teenager laid eyes on Feng Wu's pale face, he had been seething. Then, his brooding gaze landed on Feng Wu's wrist. The cut had stopped bleeding, but the blood on her wrist was still unpleasant to look at. Anger spread out from the crown prince. The air turned misty, and the temperature dropped to the freezing point, within a radius of hundreds of meters around everyone. It's so cold. Everyone at the scene shuddered. They either crossed their arms, or rubbed their hands together to fend off the sudden drop in temperature. This external chill wasn't the most striking thing. What terrified them the most was the fear that surged up from within. The crown prince and the old master met each other's eyes. The energies of these two powerful men clashed, creating a force wave which spread out in all directions. Even the air fluctuated violently. Kill yourself. The crown prince's black eyebrows reminded one of icy blades. Everyone cried out in surprise when they heard that. What was that? What did His Royal Highness just say? Am I hearing things, or did His Royal Highness tell Old Master Xianyuan to take his own life? Is it a misunderstanding? This is Old Master Xianyuan we're talking about here. His Royal Highness is the Crown Prince and a prominent figure for sure. But he doesn't have the right to execute the head of a major clan, does he? He was the Old Master of the Xianyuan family. All the members of the Xianyuan family drew in their breaths. Especially Xianyuaning. She had always thought highly of herself, but little did she expect that to His Royal Highness, her grandfather was just another person he could kill at will. The Old Master was the most astonished of all. You, Xianyuan Kuan's eyebrows twitched. Jun Linyuan, have you lost your mind? Status-wise, Jun Linyuan was the Crown Prince, but Xianyuan Ku was the head of a clan. In Imperial College he was the deputy principal, while Jun Linyuan was a student. Jun Linyuan frowned a little, and the expression on his chiseled face was colder than ice. So, I have to do it myself, is that it? Jun Linyuan casually spread his hands, which were sinewy and fair, but as deadly as the sharpest blade that could take a life at any moment. Old Master Xianyuan smirked. What can a mere teenager possibly do to me? Since you're so arrogant, I don't mind teaching you a lesson on your father's behalf. After that, the old man flipped his big hands, and a giant battle-axe appeared. Chapter 1137. His Royal Highness demonstrates his power. Chapter 1137. His Royal Highness demonstrates his power. It's the peerless battle-axe. Xianyuanze cried out in surprise. The peerless battle-axe was Xianyuan Kuan's ultimate weapon, and the old man wouldn't use it unless it was absolutely necessary. The battle hadn't started yet, and already the old master had taken out his ultimate battle-axe, which showed how highly he thought of Jun Linyuan. Instantly, many people turned their eyes to Jun Linyuan. The Crown Prince's face was breathtakingly beautiful, but right now, no one was paying attention to his good looks. All they could sense was his terrifying energy. Bring it on! Old Master Xianyuan charged out furiously, and his battle-axe swept through the air. Even in a deadly battle like this, the Crown Prince remained splendidly elegant. He didn't use any sort of weapon, for his weapon was his hands. The peerless battle-axe swung at Jun Linyuan's face, moving as fast as a streak of lightning. The crowd was overwhelmed by a suffocating sensation. The sky overhead twisted, and crushing energy fell down on them. Everyone else stumbled back, then back again. Cough cough. Feng Wu had been lying in Jun Linyuan's arms the whole time. Right now, her cheeks were flushed, and the enormous pressure sent her into a fit of coughing. Looking down, Jun Linyuan studied the teenage girl's bloodless face. The girl had always been as vibrant as the spring sunshine and morning dew around him. Whether she was being naughty, upset, or stubborn, or admitting defeat, she always looked full of vigor and in high spirits. But now, she couldn't even stand on her own feet after the blood loss and the fright. Jun Linyuan felt as if a giant hand was squeezing his heart, and it hurt to breathe. He didn't understand what that pain meant. All he knew was that he was furious. Handing Feng Wu to Lady Northern Feng, he only said 2 words, 1 minute. He couldn't bring himself to hand Feng Wu to Feng Sun. Inadvertently, Lady Northern Feng saw the look in Jun Linyuan's eyes. What a realization! When he looked at Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan's eyes were filled with tenderness. But when he turned to stare at Xianyuan Kuan, the look on his face became murderous and merciless. Lady Northern Feng was speechless, and wondered if she had discovered something. But the Crown Prince struck before she could work it out. He charged at Xianyuan Kuan, as if he had turned into a streak of blood-red light. He then raised his right hand, and a crimson sword appeared. The sword energy lashed out before Jun Linyuan reached his enemy. The battle had started. Whoosh! The 2 powerful men clashed in midair. The sword blade glinted, and there were shadows everywhere. All anyone could see was an afterimage of Jun Linyuan, when the teenager himself was already way up ahead. Whoosh! A force wave spread out. The sky twisted. The clouds dissipated. Whoosh! The Crown Prince struck out continuously, and when the crowd could see clearly again, the battle was over. Who lost? Who was the winner? Thump! Thud! A hand fell to the ground. Thump. Then a foot. Thump. 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 And in the end, there was a louder thump. Looking closely, the others saw that it was old Master Xianyuan. Right now, the old man's arrogance and toughness had disappeared. The crown prince had cut off the old man's 4 limbs, leaving him with just a torso. A torso without any limbs. And that torso was mangled and covered in blood. Everyone's mouths dropped in astonishment. The Xianyuan family was even more aghast. "Oh God!" someone cried out. Immediately, there were even more exclamations. Chapter 1138, I object. Chapter 1138, I object. How can something as horrifying as this happen? How frightening. Is he still the crown prince we know? That's the old master of the Xianyuan family. People cried out in surprise one after another, and the voices went on and on. Everyone stared at the crown prince, as if they were seeing a god. The looks on their faces were a mix of excitement, fear, reverence. Feng Wu's eyes were wide open. Jun Linyuan could actually. He was actually capable enough to destroy old Master Xianyuan. The old man was already at the spiritual king stage. Exactly how capable was Jun Linyuan? The crown prince then pulled his sword back. With that, the rampaging force wave died down completely. Sensing Feng Wu's gaze, the crown prince glanced at her. He had enjoyed quite a few proud moments like this, but never had he been as content as now. Had the girl become so important to him already? And he was even feeling a strange sensation, which could be considered sweet. Nonsense. How could a crown prince like him become affectionate like the commoners? That was ridiculous. At that thought, Jun Linyuan threw a dirty and stern look at Feng Wu. Baffled by the look, Feng Wu rubbed her nose and wondered what was wrong with His Royal Highness this time. While the Feng family and Jun Linyuan were exchanging looks, members of the Xianyuan family had almost lost their minds. Old Master, Father, Grandpa, Xianyuan Zhe, Xianyuan Yu, Xianyuan Yi, Xianyuan Ing, and every other member of the Xianyuan family rushed over in unison, surrounding the old man in the middle. At that moment, old Master Xianyuan was bleeding all over his body, but he was still conscious. Lips quivering, he tried to say something, but couldn't utter a word. The handsome, godlike crown prince had straight, thick eyebrows and cold black eyes. His face was as taut as a noble man's should be, and he reminded one of death itself. He went up to Lady Northern Feng, then stretched out his hands. Lady Northern Feng was baffled at first. What was this about? Feng Sun poked her arm, then winked at her. Lady Northern Feng saw the light right away. Immediately, she put Feng Wu back in Jun Linyuan's arms. Everyone watched as Jun Linyuan's long robe flapped in the wind. From behind, his back was straight and steady, and reminded them of a god. The crowd automatically parted, creating a path wide enough for the 3 of them to pass through. The crown prince left with Feng Wu in his arms. Lady Northern Feng and her men marched off valiantly and spiritedly. The spectating guests were all dumbfounded. What? I can't believe what I just saw. His Royal Highness took action. He saved Feng Wu. Not only did His Royal Highness do that, he also left with Feng Wu in his arms. His Royal Highness doesn't like Feng Wu? Says who? If that's the case, would he carry her like that in both arms? Try it yourself. But His Royal Highness could be carrying her away for young Lord Feng's sake. Isn't she young Lord Feng's sister? Why would His Royal Highness voluntarily carry her if the young lord could? Well, is it possible that His Royal Highness actually likes Feng Wu? Impossible. Why? Feng Wu's a really pretty girl. Feng Wu only realized what was going on after they exited the Xianyuan mansion. She gave Jun Linyuan a shove. Put me down now. But Jun Linyuan was way too strong for her. His slender arms seemed to have boundless strength in them. No matter how hard Feng Wu struggled, she couldn't shake him off the least bit. Chapter 1139. He is so beautiful that he makes one want to sin. Chapter 1139. He is so beautiful that he makes one want to sin. Jun Linyan was still holding her even after they got into the carriage. Lady Northern Feng and Feng Sun exchanged looks, And the lady was astonished. Watching the carriage drive away with Feng acting as the coachman himself, Lady Northern Feng said, They. Feng Sun nodded. Lady Northern Feng was still in a trance-like state, even after they got into their own carriage. This can't be happening. It just can't. Lady Northern Feng rubbed her forehead, which was starting to throb painfully. This is Jun Linyuan we're talking about here. In the Zhengwu Empire, the name Jun Linyuan was synonymous with transcendence, and was unmatched and omnipotent. Feng Sun rubbed his nose. I didn't believe it myself at first, but Boss Jun likes her. So what can we do? Lady Northern Feng sounded on edge. What do you mean, what can we do? His Royal Highness isn't a good choice for her. Feng Sun looked at Lady Northern Feng in bewilderment. Mum, are you against it? Lady Northern Feng stared at Feng Sun, as if she was looking at an idiot. Of course I am. Don't tell me you like the idea. Feng Sun looked confused. But Mum, didn't you tell Xiao Wu to get along well with Boss Jun and cherish this great patron? That's not the same thing. Lady Northern Feng was a little agitated. You do know who His Royal Highness is, right? He's going to be our future emperor. Of course he is. Lady Northern Feng went on. I have no doubt that he'll be the most competent emperor, who will lead us into a new and prosperous era. Someone like that will be a great ruler, but not a great husband. Feng Sun glared at her. Why can't Boss Jun be a great husband? Lady Northern Feng snorted and asked grumpily. Tell me, is he going to fill his palace with concubines? Feng Sun said. Well, that's a common thing for emperors, no? Lady Northern Feng said. Yes, it is. So, do you want your sister to spend her life crying in her bedchamber alone until morning? Feng Sun said. Well, don't you think you're thinking a little too far ahead? Lady Northern Feng replied. My silly son, a person without distant care will encounter immediate sorrow. Feng Sun rubbed his nose. But Xiao Wu is a beautiful girl. Lady Northern Feng snorted. Xiao Wu certainly is, but men always want something new, and their love never lasts. Plus, with someone as talented and prominent as Jun Linyuan, women will only throw themselves at him. And there's the Empress Dowager. Do you think she'll stop sending women to Jun Linyuan's bed? Feng Sun rubbed his nose. Lady Northern Feng added. Not to mention that Sui Qinghuan. Everyone has been going on and on about Sui Qinghuan being the perfect match for His Royal Highness. I don't know who started saying it, but the news has been spreading more and more over the years. Feng Sun couldn't agree more. Lady Northern Feng put on a long face. I wonder what Xiao Wu thinks about the whole thing, but she seems quite level-headed. Feng Sun nodded. I thought Xiao Wu was into Boss Jun before, but I was mistaken. Xiao Wu can't get far away from him enough. Lady Northern Feng said. That's the right thing to do. You hurry up. Huh. Lady Northern Feng pushed Feng Sun out of the carriage. The two of them are alone in that carriage, and that's not appropriate at all. This won't do Xiao Wu's reputation any good, if she doesn't want to marry him. So go ride with them. Quickly. Feng Sun wanted to say no, for Boss Jun was so frightening. He didn't want this job. However, his mother could be just as frightening when she got mad. Feng Sun was conflicted. Meanwhile, in the carriage up ahead, Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan were in a stalemate. Looking up from where she was lying in his arms, Feng Wu could see Jun Linyuan's dark, straight eyebrows, sparkling black eyes and fair cheeks. He looked as handsome as a god. Chapter 1141, So Mad. Chapter 1141, So Mad. However, in Feng Wu's eyes, this guy was the most abominable. He was such a bore. Feng carried out all of Jun Linyuan's commands without question. In one swift movement, the carriage turned 180 degrees around on the narrow road. Jun Linyuan was quite capable of doing something like sending Feng Wu back to the Xianyuan family. Feng Wu caught Jun Linyuan's hand right away, and gave him a pleading look. Jun Linyuan raised his chin proudly, and his well-defined profile was breathtaking. He glanced at Feng Wu, then raised his voice and complained to the coachman. Why are we moving so slowly? Whoosh! Instantly the carriage picked up speed, as if it had grown wings. Feng Wu grunted, lost her balance, and fell into Jun Lingyuan's arms head first. Thump! Her head smashed into Jun Lingyuan's chin. Jun Lingyuan didn't seem affected at all. Feng Wu, on the other hand, had tears in her eyes from the pain, and kept gasping. But the pain was the last thing on her mind now. Grabbing Jun Lingyuan's hand, she said, "Tell Feng to stop now." At this speed, they would reach the Xianyuan mansion in a matter of minutes. However, that arrogant look stayed on Jun Lingyuan's godlike, handsome face, and he only glanced at Feng Wu. Feng Wu could only give in. "Fine, fine. You want a share of the spoils? You can have it." She then searched her space with her mental power, and realized that all 10 items were real treasures. What else could they be? Old Master Xianyuan had been furious when he realized that they had been stolen. Parting with any of them would break his heart. Feng Wu was at the disadvantage here, however, and she could only take a lamp out, which she handed to Jun Lingyuan. It was a cornice lamp with 9 dangling beads. Despite its ordinary appearance, it contained a formation. Holding this lamp, one would always find their way inside any common formation. A rough calculation convinced Feng Wu that this lamp was quite valuable. It was worth 10 houses at least, courtyards included. Yet it was the least valuable of the 10 items, which was why Feng Wu had picked it out for Jun Lingyuan. The crown prince only darted an indifferent look at Feng Wu, and couldn't be bothered to take the lamp. Feng Wu could only quietly put the lamp down next to Jun Lingyuan. Staring at Feng Wu with his brooding black eyes, Jun Lingyuan said in a deep husky voice, "Is that all?" Feng Wu wanted to say yes, but it didn't take a genius to figure out that losing an item like this wouldn't have driven old Master Xianyuan mad. Gritting her teeth, Feng Wu felt heartbroken over what she had to do, but she had no choice but to take out the second least valuable item. There you go. It was a box of pills. They were top-quality supreme-level breakthrough pills, and there was a whole box of them, which had probably been prepared for the most important children of the Xianyuan clan. Jun Lingyuan gestured at her, telling her to put it on the side. "Keep going." Feng Wu was so furious that smoke was practically coming out of her ears. "Your Royal Highness, you're being greedy here. I only have a few items, and I've already given you 2. You," Jun Lingyuan said. "Feng, are we taking a walk or what?" Instantly, the carriage picked up speed, and cold wind made a whooshing sound in their ears. Feng Wu. "All right. I don't like it, but I'll give you another one." Feng Wu took out a third one. However, with the third came the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. Feng Wu kept taking more things out until she was completely pissed. Because there were only 3 items left. The first one was Fallen Star Stone, an essential material for forging the Fallen Star Sword. The second piece was flexible armor made from gold wire. It would be perfect for the beautiful lady. And the third piece was that mysterious stone. Feng Wu had a hunch that it had something to do with the broken star piece. "I don't have anything left. I don't. Hand me over to the Xianyuan family if you want." Hopeless, Feng Wu gave up altogether. She glared at Jun Lingyuan. Chapter 1142 A Sweet Scene. Chapter 1142 A Sweet Scene. Jun Lingyuan stared at Feng Wu with his brooding eyes, which reminded one of the starry sky. He didn't blink. His eyes were so bright that they seemed to see through one's deepest secrets. It was impossible to hide anything from him. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. "I don't have anything left. You only arrived afterward. Even if we should divide the spoils between us, you're already getting a very big share." Jun Lingyuan wouldn't be persuaded. His face was still as good-looking as a god's, but a dark storm was brooding in his eyes. He reached out and let his wide sleeve gently slide over the so-called treasures. Crack, crack, crack. There came the sound of things breaking apart. Feng Wu's eyes widened involuntarily when she saw this. No way. She watched as the treasures that she had forced herself to give away turned to ash as Jun Lingyuan's sleeve brushed over them. They were all gone. Every single one of them. Jun Lingyuan. Feng Wu stared at Jun Lingyuan in disbelief. He had pressed her so hard just then that she thought he wanted his share of the spoils. She had been complaining in her head, but as it turned out. "You wastrel. Do you have any idea how much these treasures are worth? You've destroyed them all. All of them. Feng Wu was almost in tears. For she had had plans for quite a few of the items. Some were for Chaoga, and some for Qiuling, Uncle Qiu, and the rest. Jun Linyuan, I'm going to kick your ass. Feng Wu was infuriated. However, his eyes were so frightening. They reminded her of a dark, raging storm as the scent of blood filled the air. One would shiver with fear when they looked at those eyes. And the next thing they knew, they were giving in. Aren't you going to ask me why? Jun Linyuan stared at her. Despite being intimidated, Feng Wu wouldn't let it drop. Why? Jun Linyuan gave off a frightening energy. Put yourself in such a dangerous situation again, and there will be consequences. Feng Wu wanted to retort, but she couldn't help but go over the entire incident in her head. Ever since she came up with a plan to get close to the Xianyuan family, she had always been at a disadvantage, yet had taken action anyway. Jun Linyuan's cruel voice rang out in her ears. You wanted information on that second broken star piece, didn't you? Feng Wu gritted her teeth. Jun Linyuan sounded disappointed. Didn't I tell you that I know where it is? Why didn't you come to me? Feng Wu still said nothing. Jun Linyuan jabbed Feng Wu's forehead with a finger. Do you know what kind of person Xianyuan Kuan is? He's fought numerous wars and narrowly escaped death more times than you can count. He has more ruthlessness in his little finger than you have in your entire body. And capability-wise, you don't stand a chance. Why would you provoke him? Do you have a death wish? God knew how Jun Linyuan had felt when Feng Sun sent Mu the Sixth to fetch him earlier. His head had gone completely blank, and he almost tripped when he flew toward the Xianyuan mansion. Feng Wu was almost in tears as Jun Linyuan jabbed her forehead, and she stared at Jun Linyuan with a pout. With a stern look on his face, the crown prince scolded her. Do you admit that you were wrong? Feng Wu said, yes. The crown prince said, are you ashamed of yourself or not? Feng Wu said, yes, I am. Jun Linyuan asked, will you do it again? Feng Wu lowered her head and apologized like a little wife. No, I won't. Jun Linyuan grunted. The stubborn girl was always quick to admit her mistakes, but she would repeat them all over again as soon as he turned his head. She never learned. Staring at Jun Linyuan, Feng Wu mumbled quietly, but even if that's the case, you didn't have to destroy all my treasures. They were really expensive stuff. Jun Linyuan rolled his eyes at her. You call them treasures? Feng Wu's eyes lit up. Chapter 1143. Is the broken star piece that important to you? Chapter 1143. Is the broken star piece that important to you? Jun Linyuan flicked her forehead with his finger. You money grubber. Feng Wu tugged at his wide sleeve. In order to obtain more benefits for Chaoga and the others, Feng Wu could forget all about her dignity. Getting what she wanted was her priority. Your Royal Highness, you'll compensate me for my loss, won't you? Feng Wu swayed his arm back and forth. Your Royal Highness? Jun Linyuan snorted. Brother Jun, Feng Wu took the hint right away. Jun Linyuan glanced at her, then gave a reluctant grunt. Naturally, Feng Wu wouldn't let such a great opportunity go to waste. She immediately took out that translucent stone and showed it to Jun Linyuan. Your Royal Highness, Brother Jun, have a look at this stone. Is there anything unusual about it? Jun Linyuan glanced at the stone, then turned his cold gaze to Feng Wu. The look in his eyes reminded one of the night sky, which was a mystery that couldn't be comprehended. Feng Wu looked confused. Jun Linyuan snorted. So, you really did hold something back. Instantly, Feng Wu realized what Jun Linyuan meant, and involuntarily tried to put the stone back into her pocket, but Jun Linyuan moved quickly and took action first as he grabbed the stone. Give it back to me. Feng Wu jumped up, trying to take it back. The stone would lead her to the broken star piece, which was something she cherished more than her own life. She wouldn't let anything happen to the stone. Jun Linyuan raised his hand when Feng Wu jumped at him to grab the stone. Needless to say, she fell right into Jun Linyuan's arms. Feng Wu wanted to stand up, but realized that she was restrained and couldn't get up no matter what. She snapped, Jun Linyuan. Jun Linyuan snorted. Do you want to know the secret of this stone or not? Yes. A wildcat only a moment ago. Feng Wu turned all gentle and tender the next moment. Holding Jun Lingyuan's arm, she pleaded, "Brother Jun, please tell me. Please." The crown prince shifted, then tapped his left shoulder with his right fist. That was too obvious a hint to be missed. In an obsequious manner, Feng Wu started massaging Jun Lingyuan's shoulders. As a supreme-level medicine refiner, Feng Wu had unparalleled skills in identifying pressure points and was an expert in exerting just the right amount of power. As soon as she started working, Jun Lingyuan felt pleased right away. "How's that? Does it feel good?" Feng Wu asked obsequiously. For the sake of the broken star piece, sucking up to the crown prince was nothing. Jun Lingyuan made a vague sound. "Not bad." Feng Wu opened a hidden door in the wall of the carriage and pulled out a small square table, which had a mini tea stove made from red clay on it. Feng Wu carefully poured a cup of tea and only handed it to Jun Lingyuan when the temperature was right. "Your Royal Highness, would you like some tea?" Jun Lingyuan glanced at Feng Wu. The teenage girl had exquisite features and flushed cheeks. With her eyes lowered like this, she looked so docile. She reminded him of a delicate bud covered with spring morning dew, and which gave off a refreshing scent. When she made an effort to play up to someone, she could be very irresistible. "How's the tea? It's not too hot, is it?" Feng Wu's smile was a little scary in Jun Lingyuan's eyes now. Darting a grumpy look at her, Jun Lingyuan patted the empty spot next to him. Feng Wu sat next to him right away. What she failed to notice was how close that put her to Jun Lingyuan. She looked eagerly at Jun Lingyuan, then turned her nervous gaze on the translucent stone. As much as she wanted to ask, she was able to keep her silence. "Is the broken star piece that important to you?" Jun Lingyuan asked all of a sudden. Feng Wu was ready for some explanation from the young master here, but was rendered speechless by the question. The expression on Jun Lingyuan's handsome, well-defined face. Chapter 1144 Untitled. Chapter 1144 Untitled. Jun Lingyuan's eyes and his good-looking face looked like a pair of bottomless pools. Feng Wu was rendered speechless on the spot. "Is the broken star piece that important to you?" Feng Wu smiled bitterly when she heard the question. Of course the broken star piece was important to her. It was more important than her life. However, she couldn't give him that answer. Jun Lingyuan's eyes were so bright and piercing that she wouldn't be able to keep any secrets from him. Involuntarily, Feng Wu looked away, evading the searching look in his eyes. "What do you need it for?" Jun Lingyuan wasn't going to go easy on Feng Wu. His beautiful face was breathtaking, and when he leaned over, he was so close that Feng Wu could feel his hot breath on her face. Feng Wu's cheeks flushed and her ears heated up. She gave Jun Lingyuan a little shove and glared at him. "Are you going to tell me or not?" Jun Lingyuan looked slightly disappointed. Intuition told him that it was a very important secret for her, but obviously, she wasn't planning to share it with him. Probably because she didn't trust him enough yet. Deep down, the crown prince was a little upset. Feng Wu glanced at the crown prince in bewilderment. The guy had looked normal just a moment ago. Why did he have a gloomy look on his face all of a sudden? The crown prince's temper was so unpredictable. Feng didn't witness the whole thing, but he could sense the atmosphere in the carriage. The old man shook his head with a wry smile. The crown prince usually never let his expression reveal anything, but around Feng Wu, his emotions were written all over his face. Feng Wu poked him with a finger. "So what's the deal with this stone? Just say something, please." Jun Lingyuan had lost interest altogether. Stuffing the stone back into Feng Wu's hands, he crossed his hands behind his head and wouldn't even look at her. Feng Wu nudged Jun Lingyuan, but no matter how hard she tried, the guy wouldn't talk to her. Just then, the sound of a galloping horse quickly approached them from behind. Hearing that, Jun Lingyuan frowned a little, then sat back up and straightened his back. A cold voice came from outside the carriage. The owner of the voice then started a conversation with Feng. The voice sent a chill down Feng Wu's spine. How emotionless it sounded. She wondered who the man was. Lifting the curtain up a little, she stole a peek outside. The man rode a big horse, and was covered from head to toe in a black robe with a large bamboo rain hat on his head, giving him a mysterious and unapproachable look. His Majesty wants to see His Royal Highness. Now. The man showed Feng a token. It was a color that Feng Wu had never seen before, but she could tell that the atmosphere had turned serious. Involuntarily, she darted a glance at Jun Linyuan. She then saw Jun Linyuan raise the curtain of the carriage as he prepared to leave. Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu tugged at his sleeve and looked anxiously at him. She wondered if Emperor Wu had heard about the incident with old Master Xian Yuan, and she was worried that Jun Linyuan would be punished for it. Although the teenager had always struck her as all-powerful, he was still just the crown prince, not the actual emperor. He had crippled the head of an influential family for no obvious reason, and she couldn't imagine how big an impact that would have if the other influential families joined hands. The more she thought about it, the more worried Feng Wu became. Distress was etched across her face. Jun Linyuan looked back at her. From Feng Wu's perspective, the straight line of his nose bridge was breathtaking. He, on the other hand, found the earnest look on her face rather endearing. Silly girl. Jun Linyuan looked up and rubbed her head. There was a tenderness in his voice that even he wasn't aware of. Have you forgotten who I am? He was Jun Linyuan, the omnipotent teenager. Jun Linyuan left Feng with some instructions after he got out of the carriage. He then summoned his mount and rode off with the man in black. Chapter 1145 Untitled. Chapter 1145 Untitled. Feng Wu turned to Feng looking concerned. His Royal Highness. Feng never blatantly showed off his capability the way Jun Linyuan did. Since he was known to be Jun Linyuan's most helpful wingman, Feng would never let such a great opportunity go to waste. He wouldn't be Feng the steward if he didn't do anything now. Sigh. Feng heaved a long sigh. Miss Feng Wu, please sit back down. His Royal Highness has left instructions that I should return you safely to Fallen Star Yard. Feng Wu decided that she wouldn't sit back inside the carriage, and instead took a seat next to Feng. Mr. Feng, that person from just then, is he His Majesty's man? Feng nodded. Is he a very capable cultivator? Feng said. There are always a lot of capable men around His Majesty. Will Jun Linyuan be all right? After all, Jun Linyuan had only offended the colossal Xianyuan clan, because he had been defending her. Feng said. Of course there will be consequences. After all, old Master Xianyuan had all 4 limbs cut off for no reason. Feng Wu bit her lower lip. But His Majesty is fond of His Royal Highness. Feng sighed. So what if His Majesty is? His Royal Highness lost his temper over a beautiful woman, and what he did frightened a lot of people. What if the other influential families join hands and oppose him? Feng Wu was baffled. Since when did he lose his temper over a beautiful woman? Feng only gave Feng Wu a knowing look and remained silent. Biting her lower lip, Feng Wu was conflicted. She wondered if Jun Linyuan had really drawn out his sword for her. If it wasn't for her, he wouldn't have injured old Master Xianyuan so severely. Was he fond of her? No, that couldn't be. Feng Wu was so befuddled that she couldn't think straight anymore. Feng looked at Feng Wu as he drove the carriage. Good. The stubborn girl was finally acknowledging the possibility. The fact that she was conflicted instead of showing indifference was great progress. After all, Rome wasn't built in a day. After returning to Fallen Star Yard, Feng Wu was still absent-minded when she walked in. Miss, are you all right? Qiuling steadied Feng Wu as soon as she saw the latter. If she hadn't acted in time, her mistress would have bumped her head on the doorframe. I'm okay. Feng Wu shook her head. Miss, I need to lie down. But young Master Feng Sun is here. Qiuling looked at Feng Wu. Feng Sun. Feng Wu turned around immediately to see Feng Sun enter the courtyard. He wasn't alone. Lady Northern Feng was with him. Lady Northern Feng looked concerned when she saw Feng Wu, and told Qiuling right away. Quickly, help your mistress inside so that she can rest. She lost a lot of blood today, and needs to recover. Instantly, Qiuling was worried sick. She helped Feng Wu lie down, then busied herself with taking care of the latter. Feng Wu half reclined in bed while Lady Northern Feng tucked the duvet tightly around her, fearing that the cold air might get in. Feng Wu smiled wryly. I'm not that fragile. Lady Northern Feng threw a dirty look at Feng Wu. You went through a lot today. You were injured, terrified, and lost a lot of blood. Other girls would have passed out by now. Luckily, you're tougher than they are. Come to think of it, ever since she left home the night before, Feng Wu had been busy. She went to the flying guillotine first, and was recognized by Feng Sun as the ugly girl on her way back, which led to his hot pursuit of her. When she was finally able to take a short break in Northern Feng Mansion, she set out for the birthday party in the Xianyuan Mansion, during which time she was set up and poisoned. One slip, and she could have lost her life. Chapter 1146 Untitled. Chapter 1146 Untitled. After thinking back to everything that had happened so far, Feng Wu smiled weakly, her face still pale. Luckily, nothing too bad happened. After the others left the room, Lady Northern Feng took Feng Wu's hand in hers, then caressed the girl's forehead with her other hand. It pained her to see Feng Wu like this. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. Mother, why are you suddenly? Lady Northern Feng heaved a deep sigh. Xiao Wu, you have to be honest with me. Feng Wu looked from Feng Sun to Lady Northern Feng. About what? Lady Northern Feng asked. What do you think of His Royal Highness? A frown appeared on Feng Wu's pale face. What about His Royal Highness? Lady Northern Feng was used to being straightforward, so she cut to the chase right away. She asked directly, His Royal Highness is in love with you, isn't he? Feng Wu bolted up while Lady Northern Feng was still bent over, and their foreheads smacked into each other. Thump. Ouch. Covering her forehead, Feng Wu cried out in pain. Lady Northern Feng threw a dirty look at Feng Wu and rubbed her forehead for her. Are you all right? Does it hurt? Feng Wu said, Yes. Lady Northern Feng grunted. Even I can tell that His Royal Highness is in love with you. Why are you still so agitated? Feng Wu clenched her fists. No, he's not in love with me. Lady Northern Feng glanced at Feng Wu. He really is. Xiao Wu, stop lying to yourself. I have the sharpest eyes, you know. Feng Wu said, She turned to Feng Sun for help. Hadn't Feng Sun always thought that she was hopelessly in love with Jun Linyuan, while the guy wouldn't even look at her? However, Feng Sun crouched down next to her bed and looked into her eyes. Xiao Wu, I owe you an apology. I've been so wrong in thinking that you wouldn't leave Boss Jun alone. In fact, it's Boss Jun who has his eye on you. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. What was going on today? Back in the carriage, the way Jun Linyuan spoke to her had been so intimate, which was odd. Then, Feng gave her that little speech outside the carriage. Now even Lady Northern Feng and Feng Sun were asking her about it. What day was it today? Why did it seem like the whole world was telling her that Jun Linyuan was in love with her? But in fact, Jun Linyuan wasn't even nice to her. He always had mood swings around her, and his temper was so erratic. How could that be a sign that he was in love with her? Feng Wu didn't agree with that conclusion. If she was in love with someone, she would do all she could to take care of him and be there for him. Before she knew it, that handsome, godlike man in his white robe came to mind. Xiao Wu. Lady Northern Feng's voice woke Feng Wu from her reverie. Taking Feng Wu's hand, Lady Northern Feng said earnestly, We'll talk about His Royal Highness's feelings for you later. The most important thing is, do you like His Royal Highness or not? Feng Wu shook her head immediately. No. Although her reply was expected, Lady Northern Feng still found it hard to understand. His Royal Highness is the most outstanding man of his generation, and the Junwu Empire hasn't seen a young cultivator like him for hundreds of years. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. I know His Royal Highness is unparalleled in his talent and capability, but I don't have to be in love with him just because he's an outstanding man. You're so right. Lady Northern Feng held both Feng Wu's hands. She had always thought highly of Feng Wu, and once again, Feng Wu didn't let her down. Plus, His Royal Highness is so popular with girls. His future wife will have such a difficult life. Feng Wu smiled. Chapter 1147 Untitled. Chapter 1147 Untitled. Lady Northern Feng nodded. That's right. Kiddo, don't be afraid. I'm on your side. If you don't want him, no one can force you. Feng Wu looked gratefully at Lady Northern Feng. If Jun Linyuan really was fond of her, Lady Northern Feng would have to face Jun Linyuan's wrath. Feng Wu couldn't imagine the amount of pressure Lady Northern Feng would have on her shoulders. Mother. Feng Wu swore to herself that when she was strong enough, she would do everything she could to repay the lady for her kindness. After Lady Northern Feng and Feng Xin left, Feng Wu relaxed and slipped into deep slumber. Feng Wu slept as if she was in a trance. She only woke up 3 days later. Waking up, Feng Wu realized that she was covered in sweat and was all sticky. Qiuling had run a warm bath already, and she helped Feng Wu into the tub. Just then they heard footsteps outside. Feng Xiaoqi went out to greet the guest, and they heard the boy's voice almost right away. Sister, brother Feng Sun is here. Qiuling was about to put some nice clothes and makeup on Feng Wu, but the latter found it too much trouble, and only let Qiuling tie her hair up loosely. She then threw on something simple, and went out to meet Feng Sun. The teenage girl reminded Feng Sun of the most tender bud in early spring. She was as pure as spring morning dew, and looked most refreshing. This girl. Feng Sun sighed with emotion, amazed by how striking the girl was. He wondered how stunning she would become in a few years, when she was all grown up. Feng Wu waved a fair, slender hand in front of his face. It immediately woke Feng Sun from his reverie. Sitting down in front of him, Feng Wu cut to the chase. What's happening out there? Feng Sun was surprised. How did you know? Feng Wu said grumpily. You wouldn't come here for no reason. Since you're here waiting for me, something major must have happened. Feng Sun asked. Do you want the good news or the bad news? Feng Wu gave Feng Sun a grumpy look. The good news. The good news is, Zhuo is dead. Feng Sun looked elated and asked cheerfully. Do you know where they found him? Where? Perching Phoenix. Feng Sun laughed wholeheartedly. Right, you don't know what Perching Phoenix is, do you? It's a famous brothel in the imperial capital. As a matter of fact, Feng Wu knew what Perching Phoenix was. Not only had she been there before, Feng Sun had been there at the time too. He had searched for her everywhere. Of course, she would never tell Feng Sun that. Zhuo is dead? Did someone kill him? Feng Wu rubbed her chin. Feng Sun said. I heard that it was a secret attack by the Xianyuan family. After all, what happened between Zhuo and Lady Kai finally got out. Feng Wu frowned a little. Since Lady Kai and Zhuo had wanted her dead the other day, she didn't show them any mercy either. An eye for an eye. Feng Wu thought it was a fair trade. However, if the Xianyuan family was clever enough, they shouldn't have assassinated Zhuo so soon. Feng Wu rubbed her chin. Feng Sun nodded. You don't say. They should have forced the Zhuo family to hand Zhuo over to be taken back to the Xianyuan family, where they could kill him openly. Although Zhuo death is good news for us. Feng Sun chuckled. Xiao Wu, guess what? Just before old Master Xuanyuan's birthday party, the Zhuo and Xianyuan families formed a strategic partnership. Chapter 1148 Untitled. Chapter 1148 Untitled. Feng Wu asked. A strategic partnership? Feng Sun nodded. Yes, they formed an alliance. And the Zhuo family is already in an alliance with the Duge family. Feng Wu nodded. I see. Feng Sun snorted. If those three families really join hands, their influence will be unprecedented. If that happens, Northern Feng Mansion will never be able to suppress them. He then chuckled. But what happened at the birthday party was such a happy coincidence. A spoiled third generation of the Zhuo family, and the oldest daughter-in-law of the Xianyuan family, who is also in charge of the household affairs. Not only were they having an affair, they were also caught in the act by so many people. The Xianyuan and Zhuo families tried to keep the news from spreading, but it isn't something that they can keep a secret. Northern Feng Mansion certainly won't let that happen. Feng Sun gloated. That's what I've been doing these days. Making sure that the entire imperial capital knows about it. Everyone is talking about the love affair between those two now. He then turned to Feng Wu. So the two families are at loggerheads, and they won't form that close alliance now. Moreover, Zhuqinglu is dead now. It was done very quietly and without a trace. Feng Sun said with a smile. The Zhou family thinks the Xianyuan family did it. And the Xianyuan family thinks it was the Zhou family. They're busy suspecting each other now. I'll be surprised if they can still work together after this. Feng Wu was pleasantly surprised. She never expected killing Zhuqinglu to bring so many merits. Back when she visited the flying guillotine, she had picked Zhuqinglu only because he was an easy target. Poor kid. So what's the bad news? Asked Feng Wu. The bad news is, Feng Sun glanced at Feng Wu. The whole thing started when they went looking for you. Since the two families have no one else to blame, they've decided to blame you now. Feng Wu said, How is that my fault? Feng Sun sighed deeply. I know, but that's the way things are. It's only human nature to prey on easy targets. So, Feng Wu turned to Feng Sun. Feng Sun said, Why don't you move into Northern Feng Mansion for the time being? Mother thinks it's too dangerous to leave you here. After some consideration, Feng Wu said, I don't think they'll go that far. After all, they're each other's biggest enemy at the moment. Feng Wu didn't think that the conflict between the two families was big enough yet. She needed to think of something, and use this opportunity to escalate the conflict between the Zhou and Xianyuan families. As long as the two families were at each other's throats, they would have no time for her, and she could continue to progress in peace. At that thought, I need to go to Imperial College, said Feng Wu. Feng Sun frowned. Go to Imperial College? Now. Feng Wu said, The way to the college might be dangerous, but once I get there, I'll have Grand Secretary Feng behind me. No one will do anything to me. As for her family's safety, fortunately, she had Chong San, which settled Feng Wu's mind. Feng Sun said, I'll go to Imperial College with you. Feng Wu said sure. She was going to Imperial College for two things. One was to apply for homeschooling. Feng Wu had done the maths. Her cultivation speed would be doubled with the Tai formation at home, which would be so much faster than if she studied at the college. Therefore, why should she give up such an excellent resource at home, and take the long route to school every day? Chapter 1149 Untitled. Chapter 1149 Untitled. Her other plan was to find leads on the Broken Star piece. Since Jun Linyuan wouldn't tell her, she would have to figure it out herself. Before she left home, Feng Wu went to her beautiful mother and put that golden flexible armor on the latter herself. In Imperial College, the college had never been this lively before. The year 1 quarter. Blue Cloud Court. Have you heard? Something happened in the Xianyuan family. Everyone's heard about it by now. Who would have thought? Lady Kai and Zhuqinglu. That's some hardcore stuff. Xianyuan looks as noble as a prince. Who would have thought he has such a mother? Hey, which family do you think he really belongs to? The Xianyuan or the Zhou family? By the way, I heard that Feng Wu was somehow involved. She got lost or something, and the others went to look for her. They stumbled on Lady Kai and Zhuqinglu during the search. Oh God, so Feng Wu started the whole thing? It was human nature to gossip, even when the people in question were talented new students of Imperial College. That's right. Feng Wu was the reason this happened, so things are so awkward for her now. Do you think the Xianyuan family will go after Feng Wu for it? I'm sure they will. If she hadn't gone lost, Lady Kai's affair wouldn't have been exposed. Plus, the Zhou family must really hate Feng Wu. I heard that Zhuqinglu is dead. Wow. Really? Zhuqinglu is dead? He's the second son of the Zhou family. His sister is Zhuqingluan, and the Zhou family has prospered in the last few years. Feng Wu is going to be in so much trouble. While everyone was discussing the topic, Feng Wu walked into Imperial College. The newbie quarter. There's Feng Wu. She's here. Seriously? She's bold enough to come to school at a time like this? Isn't she afraid of death? Why don't I see her? Where did she go? I was walking behind her, and saw her enter the teacher's office. What's she doing there? Everyone was curious. Meanwhile, Feng Wu had indeed gone to see the teachers. Xiao Yi and the other teachers were all in the office, except for Chief Yu. Xiao Yi's face darkened as soon as she spotted Feng Wu. It was her. Xiao Yi snorted. Someone had visited her at home the night before, and made a deal with her. The deal was about none other than Feng Wu. Little did she expect to find Feng Wu on her doorstep the following day. Seeing that Chief Yu wasn't there, Feng Wu turned to leave, but Xiao Yi stopped her. You didn't even greet your teachers. Is that how a student should behave? Xiao Yi smirked. Feng Wu glanced at Xiao Yi with a frown. Xiao Yi was sneering inwardly. Before, Feng Wu had been backed by someone superior, and Grand Secretary Feng had been nice to her, so Xiao Yi couldn't afford to offend her. But now, both the Xianyuan and Zhou families wanted Feng Wu dead. Hence, Xiao Yi didn't think there would be any consequences to turning against Feng Wu. Xiao Yi was very confident. Rising from her seat, she went up to Feng Wu with her arms crossed, and a smirk on her face. What a surprise! I didn't think you would be bold enough to show up here at school. Feng Wu turned to leave. But Xiao Yi wouldn't let her. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you disrespect me? You're no more than a dog to me. Xiao Yi was young herself after all. She had only been a teacher here for a year, and deep down, she was still spoiled and arrogant. Feng Wu was never the docile type. She might not be bothered to retort to Xiao Yi at any other time, but now. Chapter 1150 Untitled. Chapter 1150 Untitled. Since Xiao Yi had openly insulted her, Feng Wu wouldn't endure it anymore. She stopped abruptly, spun around, raised her hand, and slapped Xiao Yi in the face. Smack! It was quick, accurate, and hard. The slap was loud and clear. Arg! Xiao Yi cried out in disbelief. Covering her red, swollen cheek, she glared at Feng Wu. How dare you hit me? The rules of Imperial College were very strict. Students were supposed to obey the teachers, but a student had just slapped a teacher, which was unheard of. That was unacceptable. Instantly, a few other teachers rushed over. Mr. Hu and Mr. Sun, whom Feng Wu had met before, were both here. Xiao Yi glared at Feng Wu, the rims of her eyes red with anger. You hit me. How dare you hit me? Feng Wu smirked. Your mouth was filthy. I was cleaning it for you. The other teachers had all heard Xiao Yi insult Feng Wu, but none of them had intervened, thinking that it was none of their business. However, what Feng Wu did incurred their wrath. Mr. Hu stared at Feng Wu. You unruly girl. How can you treat your teacher like that? Xiao Yi said furiously. Feng Wu, I don't care how well connected you are or who your patron is. All you need to know is, I'm not going to show you any mercy. After that, something glinted in Xiao Yi's hand, and she struck out with a sword. The blade shone brightly and sword energy filled the air. Shit! The other teachers blanched a little when they saw this. Xiao Yi was a Year 1 teacher, which was proof enough of her capability. As soon as she struck, Feng Wu felt a considerable amount of pressure. It was a killing move. Around them, Mr. Hu, Mr. Sun and the others saw what was happening, but they didn't try to intervene, for they thought that Xiao Yi was only disciplining a student. Although Xiao Yi's approach might be a little rough, since the student was a stubborn and unruly one, they didn't think that Xiao Yi was out of line. However, Feng Wu smiled a little. She had presumed that Xiao Yi was quite a capable cultivator, but as soon as the latter struck, Feng Wu realized that at her current cultivation level, she would actually be able to withstand Xiao Yi's attack. But before Feng Wu could take action, there was a familiar voice. What on earth is going on here? Chief Yu had shown up. She immediately stepped within range of the attack and smacked away the sword, which had been aimed at Feng Wu's forehead. The sword flew through the air and fell to pierce the ground. Chief Yu, on the other hand, had a grim, stern look on her face when she stared at Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi was angry and aggrieved. Chief Yu, she insulted me. She insulted you, so you decided to kill her? Have you lost your mind? Chief Yu was exasperated. She had thought Xiao Yi a decent teacher, but why did the girl become so stupid whenever Feng Wu was concerned? After scolding Xiao Yi, Chief Yu turned around and looked at Feng Wu in resignation. Every time this girl showed up, she brought with her some new disaster. Was that some sort of supernatural power of hers? Come with me, both of you. Glancing at Feng Wu and Xiao Yi, Chief Yu headed straight for her office. Xiao Yi glared at Feng Wu and snorted loudly. Not a single muscle on Feng Wu's face moved. She remained unperturbed and kept perfectly calm. Once inside her office, Chief Yu sat down with a dark face. She spun her chair around, then looked up and stared at the two people in front of her. With one look, Chief Yu shook her head inwardly. As the teacher and more senior person between the two, Xiao Yi was revealing too much of her emotions, be it joy or anger. Chapter 1151 I Challenge You. Chapter 1151 I Challenge You. Feng Wu, on the other hand, was a mere girl of 13 or 14, but was so composed and cool-headed, and exhibited aplomb and wisdom beyond her years. This girl would grow into an incredible figure. Thinking this, Chief Yu asked in an impassive tone. Now, which one of you can tell me what the dispute is about? Before Feng Wu could speak, Xiao Yi was already sobbing with grievance. Chief Yu, this unruly girl is outrageous. I only said some harsh words and she hit me, her teacher. Since when does Imperial College take in defiant students like her? She's practically insulted the entire Imperial College. If a student like that can go unpunished, then the teachers will have no authority left. No one will follow our orders anymore. The more Xiao Yi said, the more aggrieved she became as she sobbed. However, Chief Yu cut her off before she could finish. Chief Yu felt her head hurt, and wondered if the two people had switched souls. Why was the student all calm and composed, while the teacher couldn't stop sobbing? She turned to Feng Wu in vexation. You can explain yourself now. Feng Wu said indifferently, she insulted me. Chief Yu's face darkened. Was that why you hit her? Because she insulted you? Feng Wu snorted. She deserved it. Chief Yu smacked the table angrily. Feng Wu, you're so arrogant. Xiao Yi smiled a little. She thought that Feng Wu wouldn't be able to talk her way out this time. Feng Wu only smiled. I may be arrogant, but I didn't try to kill someone. Chief Yu was struck dumb right away. Feng Wu chuckled. Plus, as a teacher, she couldn't even fend off a student. Is that normal? Chief Yu was rendered speechless. Xiao Yi was infuriated. I can't fend you off? That's preposterous. Feng Wu only smiled. Didn't I beat you? Xiao Yi went scarlet in the face. Huh. You're not even listed in the first 900 on the billboard of Year 1 students. How dare you act so arrogantly in front of me? Where do you find the courage? Feng Wu said. Where? From my talent. Fine. Xiao Yi was almost driven mad with rage. Fight me then. Feng Wu smirked. If I win, you're not qualified to teach me anymore. Xiao Yi grunted. If you win, I'll quit this job. Feng Wu only smiled but said nothing. Chief Yu was about to say something, when there was a cold voice outside. I'll fight her. Turning around, Feng Wu saw a familiar face. It was Xin Yuanyi. And he wasn't alone. A few of his friends were with him. One of them was called by Xiangyang, and he gave Feng Wu a contemptuous look. Xin Yuanyi? Xiao Yi cried out in surprise. Everyone in the imperial capital was talking about the Xianyuan family incident. No one had expected Xianyuan Yi to still come to school now. Xianyuan Yi was the most famous new student this year, and was expected to have a promising future, but now, Xianyuan Yi stared at Feng Wu with cold, hateful eyes. There was so much hatred in them that they almost bled. Other people might not know what happened that day, but Xianyuan Yi certainly did, as someone who had been in on the scheme. He even taught Xianyuan Yi to enter that secret room through that formation. However, Xianyuan Yi had never expected things to turn around like that in the end. Although he didn't have any direct evidence, Xianyuan Yi still fixed all his hatred on Feng Wu. Staring at Feng Wu, Xianyuan Yi said in a cold voice, I challenge you. Chapter 1152, Feng Wu will definitely lose. Chapter 1152 Feng Wu will definitely lose. Chief Yu frowned. You can't do that. Feng Wu isn't on the billboard yet and she should. However, Feng Wu only said with a smile, all right. What? Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Had she lost her mind? Where did she get the courage to fight Xianyuan Yi? Xianyuan Yi stared at Feng Wu. By that I mean a battle to the death. A battle to the death. Everyone in the office sucked in their breaths. Xiao Yi's eyes flickered, for she was very satisfied with Xianyuan Yi's suggestion. No. Chief Yu frowned. That's too unfair to Feng Wu. It was common knowledge that Feng Wu hadn't even made it into the first 1,000 on the year 1 billboard. How could she possibly fight Xianyuan Yi, who was 300th on the billboard? Not to mention that it was a battle to the death. However, Xianyuan Yi only stared at Feng Wu with grim, emotionless eyes. Do you dare fight me or not? Feng Wu smiled. Sure. She said it in such a casual tone that everyone sucked in their breaths. Chief Yu tugged at Feng Wu. Do you even know what a battle to the death is? Don't say yes to things you don't understand. Feng Wu pouted. Isn't it the type of battle where the two parties sign an agreement beforehand that they'll leave their lives to fate, and promise that no one will be incriminated afterward? Chief Yu fell silent. So the girl really did know. Xianyuan Yi nodded. Tomorrow at this time. I'll see you in the Battle Royale arena. He turned and left after that. As soon as he was gone, Xiao Yi gave Feng Wu a "you idiot" look and smiled sarcastically. She didn't say anything, and only kept her taunting gaze on Feng Wu. Feng Wu ignored her and simply said to Chief Yu, Miss Yu, I would like to become an independent day student. The so-called day student lived at home, whereas an independent day student could study at home, and only went to school for exams and tests. As soon as Feng Wu said the words, everyone was astonished yet again. Usually, when students got admitted into Imperial College, they never wanted to step outside school grounds, for Imperial College was a complicated cultivation formation itself. Given Imperial College's dense spiritual essence, cultivating here was at least 50% more efficient than doing it outside. Many people had been astonished when Feng Wu applied to become a day student back then. But she wanted to become an independent day student now? That was so. Nonsense. Chief Yu frowned. Feng Wu, have you lost your mind? Do you know how capable Xianyuan Yi is? How could you say yes? Feng Wu smiled. Miss Yu, I'd like to become an independent day student. Chief Yu patted Feng Wu on the head. You'll be dead tomorrow. You won't be a student of any kind. Feng Wu said. If I win, do I get to become an independent day student? Chief Yu rolled her eyes at Feng Wu, thinking that she had never met a more carefree girl before. Feng Wu left with a smile. Feng Wu didn't tell anyone, but the other students were bound to hear the news. Even if Feng Wu wanted to keep it a secret, Xianyuan Yi wouldn't allow it. Blue Cloud Court. What? Feng Wu and Xianyuan Yi are going to fight to the death? No way. And Feng Wu said yes? Is she not afraid of death at all? When Xianyuan Yi took the test last time, he made it into the top 300 without breaking a sweat. Feng Wu isn't even in the first 900, is she? That's because she didn't show up for the test. That's because she didn't dare show up for the test. Anyway, I think Feng Wu is definitely going to lose. Chapter 1153, Be My Girl. Chapter 1153, Be My Girl. No one in Blue Cloud Court had any confidence in Feng Wu. In Universe Court, the quarter for the Year 1 senior students, someone took Feng Sang's hand in excitement. Feng Sang, big news. That Feng Wu from your family really is going to die this time. Feng Sang frowned. What are you talking about? Feng Wu agreed to fight Xianyuan Yi to the death tomorrow. Feng Sang asked. Fight him to the death? Yes, the kind where you sign an agreement before the battle and neither side is to be blamed for the death of the other. A battle to the death. Feng Sang narrowed her eyes and wondered if Feng Wu really was that eager to get killed. But Feng Sang soon recalled the capability Feng Wu had shown in the Xianyuan family house previously. It had been an astonishing demonstration, and she had to be a level 7 spiritual grandmaster already. Xianyuan Yi had to be aware of Feng Wu's cultivation level, but he still dared to challenge her. So, had there been a spurt in Xianyuan Yi's progress in the last few days? What's Xianyuan Yi's ranking now? He's 298th. Where do you think Feng Wu would be on that billboard if she shows her true capability? 900th. 600th. But Feng Sang shook her head. With what Feng Wu demonstrated in the Xianyuan family the other day, she could make it into the top 100 at least, if that really was her true capability. Of the senior year 1 students, Rong Shixin was doubtlessly the top cultivator, with Si Yuan ranked right behind him. The two of them had both been capable cultivators for a long time, and were skillful enough to proceed to year 2. However, in order to consolidate their foundations, they had remained in year 1. Right now, Rong Shixin and Si Yuan both frowned when they heard the news. Feng Wu had left a good impression on Rong Shixin, but since his family was related in some way to the Xianyuan family, he was on their side. Hence, after the Xianyuan family incident, Rong Shixin considered Feng Wu an enemy. As for Si Yuan, he had met Feng Wu before, and was infatuated with her beauty. Hearing the news, Si Yuan went out right away. Where was he going? Feng Sang had always had a secret crush on Si Yuan, and always paid attention to everything he did. Seeing him go out, she looked concerned. Without hesitation, she followed him quietly. Si Yuan stopped Feng Wu in a grove when she was about to walk out of the school gate. Feng Wu looked up at the teenager. He wore an azure blue brocade robe, had a pair of cold eyes, and stared at her with an emotionless face. It had to be said that the teenager was exceptional in both his appearance and demeanor, and one could tell right away that he was from a noble family. Most teenage girls would probably fall for his unapproachable aura. However, Feng Wu only looked at him in bewilderment. Feng Wu. The teenager stared at her and cut to the chase. He was very direct. Be my girl. What? Feng Wu was dumbfounded by that request, and had the strangest look on her face. What did you say? Feng Wu asked involuntarily, thinking that she was hearing things. Keeping his gaze on Feng Wu, Si Yuan stressed each word and said earnestly, Be my girl and I'll help you call off the duel. Feng Wu blinked innocently. Who are you? The simple question baffled Si Yuan. Si Yuan frowned, the ends of his eyebrows drooped, and he looked displeased. You don't know who I am. She had met him before, but didn't know who he was? Si Yuan felt as if his heart was being squeezed by a big hand, and he was very disgruntled. Feng Wu shook her head. Nope. Chapter 1154 Top 50? 1154 Top 50? Si Yuan pointed at the year 1 billboard a few steps away. Feng Wu turned her head and looked in that direction. Rong Shixin was ranked first with a total score of 1,000 points. Si Yuan was second with 999 points. The system marked all students who took the test, and ranking by points was the most intuitive way to do so. Are you Rong Shixin? Feng Wu looked into his eyes. Si Yuan almost choked. Feng Wu, are you humiliating me now? Staring at Feng Wu, Si Yuan blanched and was furious. But Feng Wu looked perfectly innocent. Weren't you pointing at first place? Si Yuan didn't want to talk to Feng Wu anymore. He spun around and marched off. A person was hiding behind an old tree not far away. It was none other than Feng Sang herself. Feng Sang thought her heart was going to jump out of her throat when she saw Si Yuan confess his love for Feng Wu. She was driven mad with jealousy, but luckily for her, Feng Wu was an idiot. Walking out from behind the tree, Feng Sang sneered at Feng Wu. You're such an idiot. So that guy from just then, was he telling me that he liked me? Feng Wu looked innocently at Feng Sang. Feng Sang said, Humph. She then stormed off. Feng Wu rubbed her nose, and was at a loss. Did she do something wrong? Although the Xianyuan family incident had given rise to much discussion recently, there was a limit to how long rumors lasted. With enough time, people lost interest. Hence, when the news of Feng Wu and Xianyuan Yi's battle to the death got out, no one cared about what happened between Lady Kai and Zhuo Qinglu anymore. Fallen Star Yard. Because Chaoga went back to the Duan family, she didn't go to Imperial College with Feng Wu today. How could she have known that Feng Wu would get herself into so much trouble in just a few hours? After being lectured by Mrs. Duan and the other members of the Duan family, Duan Chaoga rushed to Fallen Star Yard at top speed. Xiao Wu. Chao stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Are you going to fight Xianyuan Yi to the death? Feng Wu was using a pair of long, thin scissors to trim some thorny roses in Fallen Star Yard. Hearing that, she looked up at Chao with a smile. You're back. Chao looked at Feng Wu in concern and asked nervously, are you really going to fight Xianyuan Yi to the death? Feng Wu smiled. I didn't know the news had already spread so quickly. It's only been a while, and even you've heard about it. Are you sure about this? Chao was very concerned. That Xianyuan Yi can be very hard to handle. Feng Wu said, I think I'll be all right. Chao said, please don't tell me that you think he's only capable enough to be ranked 298th on that billboard. Feng Wu only smiled. Chao grew anxious right away. Xiao Wu, I was told that Xianyuan Yi missed out on one of the subjects during that test. That's why he's only 298th. If he had taken it, he would have gotten into the top 100 at least, or even the top 50. Feng Wu nodded. Are you really sure? Chao asked nervously as she took Feng Wu's hand. Because of the noise Chao was making, Qiuling and the others heard about it as well. Right now they were all looking anxiously at Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled. Of course I'm sure. Don't worry. However, they couldn't stop themselves from worrying, just because Feng Wu told them not to. The beautiful lady held Feng Wu's hand and began to cry. Apart from Feng Wu, everyone in Fallen Star Yard had distressed expressions on their faces. In the Feng manor, after Feng Sang got home, she told the others what happened, and Lady Wang was immediately excited. Was Feng Wu really that reckless? The incident the other day had been a hard blow to Lady Wang, and had left her crestfallen. Hence, she hadn't dared mess with Feng Wu recently, but that didn't mean that she didn't want to see Feng Wu in trouble. Chapter 1155, Unstoppable Scandal. Chapter 1155, Unstoppable Scandal. Lady Wang was already secretly rejoicing over what happened between Feng Wu and the Xianyuan family. However, she hadn't expected something even better to happen so soon. Feng Sang snorted. Feng Wu probably doesn't know that the billboard doesn't do justice to Xianyuan Yi's true capability. She really thinks that he's only good enough to be ranked 298th on the billboard. She's asking to be killed. Lady Wang was over the moon. Are you sure they're going to fight to the death? And no one will be punished for killing the other? Feng Sang nodded solemnly. That just shows how much Xianyuan Yi hates Feng Wu. I bet he wants to cut her into little pieces. After all, Feng Wu had everything to do with the discovery of Lady Kai's affair. The mother and daughter never once thought that Feng Wu might have been behind what happened between Lady Kai and Zhuo Qinglu, for they didn't believe that Feng Wu could have pulled that off. So when does the battle take place? Lady Wang asked excitedly. Tomorrow morning. Lady Wang asked. Are outsiders allowed to watch the battle? Feng Sang asked. Mother, do you want to go? Next to them, Feng Lu couldn't hide her excitement. I want to go too. Take me. I want to watch Feng Wu die. My hatred won't be quelled until she's dead. Feng Sang said. Other people won't be allowed to watch, but we're Feng Wu's family, and the college will take that into consideration in a life or death battle like this. You'll be able to watch. I never thought we would see Feng Wu die at another person's hands like this with our own eyes. I bet Feng Wu will be so frustrated when she realizes it. The Zhuo family. The atmosphere in the family was utterly miserable. Because Zhuo Qinglu was dead. Although Zhuo Qinglu wasn't the oldest son of his generation, he was a smooth talker, and his grandmother doted on him. She even preferred him over his oldest brother Zhuo Qinghan. The old lady cried until she passed out when she learned about Zhuo Qingliu's death. Although she had woken up already, she still had a sickly complexion and was very down. Lady Tao, Zhuo Qingliu's mother, cried her eyes red and raw to the point that they seemed to bleed. It's the Xianyuan family. It has to be the Xianyuan family's doing. I'll never forgive that family. Tugging at Zhuo Ming, Lady Tao gritted her teeth with hatred. Master, am I right? Zhuo Ming was angry, resigned and regretful. They had already reached an agreement with the Xianyuan family, and were about to form an alliance with the latter, but at the last minute, That bastard did such a shameless thing and ruined this family's reputation. He had it coming. Zhuo scolded. Lady Tao could do nothing but cry. But, no matter what he did, he was still our son. I'm sure he only did that because Lady Kai seduced him. Zhuo didn't want to talk to her anymore. Next to them, Zhuo Qingyu gritted her teeth and held her tongue. Zhuo had very acute senses. Turning his head, he saw the look on Zhuo Qingyu's face, and his stomach lurched. Do you know something that we don't? Zhuo stared at Zhuo Qingyu. Instantly, Lady Tao and Zhuo Qinghan looked at Zhuo Qingyu as well. Zhuo Qingyu hesitated. Lady Tao was exasperated. Your brother is dead, with his reputation in tatters. This is not the time to hold things back. Just tell us. Zhuo Qingyu was conflicted, because she and the other girls were the ones who had come up with the plan. But, in the end, despite her reluctance, Zhuo Qingyu told her family how they tried to frame Feng Wu the other night. What? Lady Tao cried out in shock. You and the others did this. You tried to set Feng Wu up and this happened. Zhuo Qingyu, is that how you treat your brother? He's dead because of you. The lady jumped at Zhuo Qingyu and wanted to hit the latter. Chapter 1156. His Royal Highness loves picking on Feng Wu. 1156. His Royal Highness loves picking on Feng Wu. Lady Tao smacked Zhuo Qingyu on her head. Tears welled up in Zhuo Qingyu's eyes at the pain, and she stared at Lady Tao in disbelief. Lady Tao only yelled at her. It was all because of you. Otherwise, your brother would never have been killed. Overwhelmed with guilt, Zhuo Qingyu burst into tears. Lady Tao wanted to hit Zhuo Qingyu again, but Zhuo Qinghan blocked her way and stared at her with a gloomy look on his face. Mother, my sister isn't to be blamed for my brother's death. Lady Tao said. Who else am I supposed to blame then? Zhuo Qinghan said. I think the Xianyuan family probably ordered the hit. Zhuo narrowed his eyes. We can't afford for our relationship with the Xianyuan family to deteriorate anymore. Zhuo Qinghan smirked. If we can't touch the Xianyuan family for the time being, what about that girl of the Feng family? Instantly, all eyes were on Zhuo Qinghan. Zhuo Qinghan snorted. Feng Wu is the reason that all this happened, right? I don't care if she got away because of her intelligence or sheer luck. I won't have it. The more Zhuo Qinghan thought about it, the angrier he became. Why can Feng Wu walk away, while our Qinglu had to die? Zhuo Qingyu took the hint right away and clenched her fists. That's right. Why does Feng Wu get to walk away when my brother is dead? Why? Zhuo Qinghan snorted. Isn't Xianyuan going to have a duel to the death with Feng Wu? She's going to die. Zhuo Qingyu nodded solemnly. What a pity. I'm in year 2 and Feng Wu is in year 1. I was planning to pick on her later, but she's going to be dead soon. Zhuo Qinghan snorted. If you ask me, Feng Wu won't die that easily. Zhuo Qingyu said. Brother, are you saying that Feng Wu is more capable than Xianyuan Yi? Zhuo Qinghan darted a glance at Zhuo Qingyu. Have you forgotten? That girl used to be more talented than Qingluan. Because Feng Wu had been better than Zhuo Qingluan in every way, the Zhuo family took action and crippled Feng Wu in the end. Zhuo Qingyu said. But no matter how capable she is now, she can't be more than a level 7 spiritual grandmaster, whereas my sister is a level 7 spiritual elder already, and will soon become a spiritual lord. Zhuo Qinghan narrowed his eyes. But nothing can change the fact that Feng Wu has a pretty face. Zhuo Qingyu asked. Brother, what do you mean by that? Zhuo Qinghan said. Didn't she win young Lord Feng over with her beauty, making Lady Northern Feng dote on her? An ignorant girl like you can't begin to understand her schemes. Zhuo Qinghan snorted. Other people may be afraid of Feng Sun, but our family isn't that inferior to Northern Feng Mansion, and we won't be intimidated by him. However, His Royal Highness is a different story. Zhuo Qinghan clenched his fists. What worries me now is that Feng Wu will get close to His Royal Highness through Feng Sun. If that happens, we'll have a big problem. She won't, said Zhuo Qingyu resolutely. His Royal Highness hates Feng Wu. He picks on her all the time, and shows no affection toward her whatsoever. What did you just say? His Royal Highness picks on Feng Wu all the time? Zhuo Qinghan had only brought it up in passing, But after hearing what Zhuo Qingyu said, the look on his face changed, and he was very serious now. Zhuo Qingyu gloated. That's right. His Royal Highness loves picking on Feng Wu. He gave her such a difficult time in Imperial College. However, Zhuo Qinghan only gave Zhuo Qingyu a "you idiot" look. Chapter 1157. That's indeed very like Feng Sun. Chapter 1157. That's indeed very like Feng Sun. How could she still gloat? Where did she get the courage? Zhuo Qinghan's analysis went like this. Jun Linyuan was an emotionless and arrogant man who regarded other people's lives as worthless. Why would he bother picking on anyone? He didn't have to do it himself. With a wave of his hand, numerous people would pick on Feng Wu for him. Zhuo Qinghan had a bad feeling. It was based on his intuition as a man. His Royal Highness, this was the most pressing matter at the moment. At that thought, Zhuo Qinghan asked, is the duel between Feng Wu and Xianyuani tomorrow at noon? Zhuo Qingyu nodded. Yes. Zhuo Qinghan said, all right. I'll go watch tomorrow. Lady Tao stared at Zhuo Qinghan in bewilderment. She couldn't understand how the subject had switched to Jun Linyuan all of a sudden. Lady Tao said, but your brother. Zhuo Qinghan said solemnly, Mother, don't worry. I promise you that we'll avenge my brother. But the most important thing now was to figure out how Jun Linyuan felt about Feng Wu. For that would decide what type of action they would take against her in the future. The general public knew little about the duel between Feng Wu and Xianyuan, but almost all of the upper class heard about it. One was the alleged talent Feng Wu, a former genius who had been crippled, but was said to be back on her feet again. And her opponent was a genius teenager, whose life had been plain sailing until it had suddenly changed recently. Which of them would win? Moreover, it was a battle to the death. It had been years since there was a battle to the death in Imperial College. It was just that Imperial College had a strict hierarchy, and each year had their own territory. Therefore, students from the other years didn't get involved in this Year 1 matter. The lively event belonged to Year 1 alone. While the outside world was discussing it animatedly, Feng Wu remained unperturbed. Grand Secretary Feng had summoned her to the Feng Manor. Looking at Feng Wu, who was standing in front of him like a good girl, Grand Secretary Feng was at a loss over what to do. Grand Secretary Feng had a stern look on his face. Are you that eager to be killed? Feng Wu pursed her pink lips. Why do you think that I'll lose for sure? Grand Secretary Feng said. Don't you know why? Feng Wu raised her chin stubbornly. I'm already quite capable myself. Just then there were footsteps outside which sounded familiar. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder. It was Feng Sun and Xianyi. Like always, Xianyi stood there with an aloof manner, a sword between his crossed arms. It was only when Xianyi mentioned it that Feng Sun realized that Feng Wu was so close to Grand Secretary Feng. Feng Wu asked, what are you doing here? Feng Sun glanced at Feng Wu, as if he was looking at an idiot. I'm here to see how you're going to commit suicide. Feng Wu snorted. Why are all of you so sure that I'm going to lose? Feng Sun poked Feng Wu in her forehead. That's very confident of you. But do you know what Xianyuanyi's true capability is now? Feng Wu asked. Do you? Feng Sun crossed his arms proudly. Your brother here just had a fight with someone. Feng Wu cried out in surprise. Don't tell me you fought Xianyuan. Feng Sun said. Who else? You can only win if you know your enemy well. Isn't that right? Feng Wu was speechless. That was indeed very like Feng Sun. Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu in resignation. Give up already. It's not too late. Feng Wu stared at Feng Sun. Is he that strong? Chapter 1158 Flying Dragon. 1158 Flying Dragon. Feng Sun nodded. He's a level 7 spiritual grandmaster, but when I fought him, I was able to force him to exert the power of a level 8 spiritual grandmaster in the end. That doesn't make him invincible, mumbled Feng Wu inwardly. She was also a level 7 spiritual grandmaster, and had fought someone of a higher cultivation level before, hadn't she? But he has an enchanting vine, which is as powerful as he is. Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu sympathetically. An enchanting vine? Feng Wu was bewildered. Feng Sun said, that enchanting vine moves like a streak of dancing flame. One wrong move, and you'll be entangled in it. Once the vine wraps itself around you, there's nothing you can do. Feng Wu said, ah. Feng Sun asked, are you scared now? Feng Wu shook her head. Surrendering without putting up a fight? That's not something I'll do. Vexed, Feng Sun smacked Feng Wu on the head. You stubborn girl. Will it kill you to give up once in a while? There. Take it. Feng Sun tossed Feng Wu a dagger. The hilt was in the shape of an eerie snake head, and the blade glinted a mesmerizing purple color. Purple lightning. Before Feng Wu could identify it, Grand Secretary Feng had already cried out in surprise. Feng Wu asked, what's purple lightning? Grand Secretary Feng threw a dirty look at Feng Wu. Purple lightning is the name of this dagger, and it's a genuine divine weapon. He then turned to Feng Sun. Purple lightning has been missing for years. How did you come by it? Feng Sun shrugged. I borrowed it from Boss Jun. As for where he got it, I have no idea. Hearing Jun Lingyuan's name, Feng Wu immediately asked, didn't His Majesty take him away? You can see him now. Is he all right? Feng Sun glanced at Feng Wu and snorted. Of course he's not all right. Right now he's... Xianyi cast a stern look at Feng Sun, who then grimaced and reluctantly looked away. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Exactly what happened to Jun Linyuan? Feng Wu was a little worried and concerned. In the end, she felt a little uneasy. Seeing that Feng Wu's mood was affected by the mention of Boss Jun, Xianyi felt much better. But this was just the beginning. The most important thing now is to defeat Xianyuan Yi, said Xianyi earnestly. Feng Sun suggested, how about I go break Xianyuan Yi's leg? That way, he won't be able to fight tomorrow. Xianyi rolled his eyes. The Xianyuan family must be on guard now. Xianyuan Yi will be protected by extremely capable cultivators before the battle tomorrow. You'll never be able to get close enough. Feng Sun was disheartened by the thought. Had he known, he would have broken Xianyuan Yi's leg just then. By the way, Feng Sun turned to Feng Wu and said seriously, since no one thinks you have much chance of winning, the odds against you are very high at the moment. Feng Wu was speechless. Grand Secretary Feng glanced at Feng Sun and Xianyi. Since you're here already, you can help her with her training. Grandfather? Xianyi's eyes lit up. Grand Secretary Feng said, I'm afraid I'll have to teach her that stance. What stance? Feng Sun was confused. Xianyi lowered his voice. Flying Dragon. Flying Dragon was Grand Secretary Feng's unique skill, one that even Xianyi hadn't been taught yet. But now, Grand Secretary Feng was going to teach it to Feng Wu. Flying Dragon? Feng Sun exclaimed in surprise as well. That was indeed a big deal. However, will she be able to master it in one night? Feng Sun was doubtful. If Feng Wu really was able to master it, then she would have some hope of defeating Xianyuan Yi. What Feng Sun didn't tell Feng Wu was that after he left, the Xianyuan family started to train Xianyuan Yi rigorously. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.